Good evening, everyone. Before beginning our committee and council meeting this evening, I believe it more than appropriate to take a moment to acknowledge the passing of a stellar human being in our community, that of Jamie Bramberger. Our entire community is in shock, in mourning, and if I needed to pick a single word to describe Mr. Bramberger, it would be a leader. Jamie endlessly gave of himself for our entire community, and for that we are eternally grateful. Certainly his family and the entire community are grieving, and I believe it appropriate at this time to take a moment to stand and have a moment of silence to simply reflect upon Jamie Bramberger. Thank you. As well, before starting the Operations Committee and calling it to order as Councillor Plummer is away, I'd like to acknowledge that on behalf of Council and the community that the City of Pembroke resides on the unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We thank the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. It is with this statement that we honor and respect the Algonquins on whose land we reside. So I'd call this Operations Committee to order for March 18th. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion for the approval of this agenda. I have the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Lafreniere. Those in favour? That is carried. We have minutes of February 18th. I'd ask for a motion to adopt those minutes, approve those minutes. I have Councillor Jacquinot, seconded by Councillor Lafreniere. Those in favour? That is carried. Any business arising? Seeing none. Moving on to presentations. So welcome. I understand we have this evening Renfrew County District School Board, and we have a number of individuals present. Certainly they go without saying, but we have Leo Boland. We have a number of people also towards the back too. So Jennifer Barnes, Jacqueline Poirier, I see Karthi Rajamani. So we got everyone, we have Mike Gannett. At this time, if I can turn it over to you folks, and welcome.
Thank you. Well, thanks. Introducing everybody. So it's nice to be here. The purpose of coming here today is just to share a little history background about our board, share with you also what we are doing, talk to you about where we are collaborating between our board and the city, and then talk about what else we can do together. So we currently have 7 families of schools in the county. We roughly have a little over 9,100 students with us as of October 2024. We have 21 elementary schools and 7 secondary schools. The different configurations of schools are, we have several K-12, we have K-6, K-8, 7-12, and 9-12. And for the 2022 to 23 school year, we had 61% of the students in Renfrew County attending our CDSB schools. In Pembroke, we had 3 schools. Fellows High School, grades 9 to 12, with 647 students. Highview Public School, grades K to 8, with 393 students. And Champlain Discovery Public School, grades K to 8, with 611 students, with a total of 1,651 students in Pembroke. Our CDSB is the 3rd largest employer in Renfrew County, behind Base Petawawa and CNL. We issued, or I guess Jacqueline did personally, 2,367 T4s in 2023. We have 1,611 permanent employees. And here we have an operating budget of $165 million, but that doesn't include everything. We have a capital budget of $9.5 million and a responsive education program funding of $2 million for total operating or total budget under our control of $176.5 million. And this is a picture or snapshot from our last strategic plan. The three priorities outlined in our current strategic plan is based on our vision, which is inspire, empower, and achieve. And this vision works equally well for our staff as well as our students. We follow our vision by inspiring our community engagement and partnerships, which includes you guys, empowering equity and well-being, and achieving excellence in teaching and learning.
Okay, thank you. Every year, the Director of Education does need to provide an annual report, and we are going to provide some of the highlights that are in the report that may be of interest to you as a City Council. So we organized the annual report in relation to our strategic plan. So in the area of Inspire Community Engagement and Partnerships, you will see that we've highlighted 3 areas of activities or learning that we've engaged in. The first one is Education for Reconciliation, which we've worked alongside 40 First Nations, Inuit, and Métis community members to integrate respectfully and responsibly Indigenous ways of teaching and learning. We've also hosted Tools in the Trades Boot Camp, which was one of 2 only offered in the province, I believe. 44 of our specialist high skills major students attended this day with a local journey person who was a millwright, and the focus was on millwrights for the day and other skilled professions. They had an opportunity to do hands-on activities and also reviewed employability skills, and also heard presentations from local employers, 2 of which are closer to Pembroke, CNL being one, and Roseburg Forest Products being another. The third area under Inspire Community Engagement and Partnerships was a program called Entrepreneurs for Change. It was a student-led initiative to create small businesses to support local charities. And in this process, we had students engaged in experiential learning, going through a design process of a product and working on financial literacy skills. In the picture that's up there, there is a picture of the class. They're just outside the Cobden Rec Hall because they did have a day where they were selling some products that they had created. And that group in particular from Champlain Discovery Public School raised $500 for the grind. In the area of Empower, Equity, and Well-being, we do want to highlight that we have had a focus on learning within our district on anti-racism and anti-oppression, providing professional learning opportunities specifically in the area of anti-Black racism and also Holocaust education, combating anti-Semitism. These, of course, are areas of focus from the ministry, and we work to provide opportunities for our staff to be in a safe environment for learning where they can ask some maybe more uncomfortable questions as they learn. Also in the area of mental health, we did engage in the last year in mandatory training for grade 7 and 8 health and phys ed teachers, specifically in the area of mental health. School Mental Health Ontario, which is a provincial group, did design modules on mental health for grades 7 and 8 to be taught through the physical health and phys ed curriculum. And so that training was delivered and did support the teachers in being able to provide and implement those modules with their students. We also have collaboration with the Ashkenazi Manitou Foundation, which does have a focus on culturally relevant mental health support for Indigenous students. And lastly, in the area of Achieve Excellence in Teaching and Learning, the core skills of the education system here in terms of looking at our Math Achievement Action Plan. We work to identify students' needs, align professional development, and utilize data to guide our math instruction. And we do rely on evidence-based strategies and providing ongoing feedback and guided instruction to students. In regards to primary literacy, there was a release by the Ontario Human Rights Commission's Right to Read report and early reading screening. We did implement the early reading screening last year with our students from SK to grade 2, and we continue to do so this year as it has become a focus from the Ministry of Education as well. And finally, We have reviewed and expanded French as a second language program. This has been an ongoing expansion in the district, and we did increase the number of grades that we had French immersion in across the district, and specifically in relation to the city of Pembroke, Champlain Discovery was one of the schools that had an expansion.
So here we talk about just the co-op positions for the city of Pembroke. So during the past 4 years, we have expanded our co-op program, and every year more secondary students are taking the co-op. During the 2024-25 school year, approximately 650 students participated in the co-op program. And we want to thank all those partners that have helped support our students to get the training and experience that they require. Our CDSB is grateful to the city of Pembroke for the cooperative education opportunities in various departments, including recreation, pollution control, public works, fire department. Our data indicates that 7 of our CDSB students have had co-op placements with the city of Pembroke since 2019, and thank you for that. And then we have, I believe, some pictures, right? So we have the pictures of co-op students training with the fire department. And I know a few who have gone through the co-op program with the fire department, and they, just thoroughly enjoy it. Just having like hands-on touching, just playing with the equipment, they really enjoy it.
So thanks Leo and Jacqueline for looking at the past, and I'm here to look forward. So how can we further our partnership? The City of Pembroke and Renfrew County District School Board. Some of the ways that we've been doing that is the Renfrew and Area Administrators Group. This group was created quite some time ago, but we've taken the opportunity to get together 2 or 3 times over the last couple of months. Most recently, we've had 2 full days on work with the Truth and Reconciliation. The first day at Algonquin College. We participated in the blanket exercise, and most recently, thank you. Most recently, at the Algonquins of Pikwakanagan Community Center, we had our second day of learning, which was really good to do. Going forward, the finance leaders of that group are coming together to see in which way we can work together and support each other to find efficiencies. As small organizations in a rural area, it's an opportunity to sort of eliminate duplication of effort. So we are working towards that. Advocacy opportunities, always for sure, right in the city of Pembroke, and working with the school board areas such as mental health needs and other community needs. We've got some really strong partnerships. We're looking to continue those and look where we can grow them. That's you. Back to me. Yeah, thanks.
So again, there's another snapshot from our current strategic plan. Listed is the vision, mission, and values and strategy priorities for the district, and they are as follows. So vision, which I had introduced earlier, so inspire, empower, achieve. And then our mission, working together to foster outstanding educational experiences, and this includes the city of Pembroke. And we value our students, our staff, and our communities. And then for the bottom, so we action our priorities through the stewardship of resources and an ongoing commitment to the measurement of our program. So we can do anything without, fiscal responsibility, and then also doing data. So it's important that we just put that across like all our priorities.
With our current strategic plan coming to an end, we are embarking on the creation of our next plan, which will go from 2026 to 2030, and community consultations are a big part of that. They are taking place across the district. There is a link in the presentation. I'm not sure if you all have it on your screen, so you can RSVP to the consultation. And the reason we're asking for that to happen is people aren't expected to go to the consultation within the community that they either work and live in. They will be held across the district, and perhaps there's another one that might be better suited for your schedule, and so and everybody is welcome to attend whichever consultation suits them. It's an opportunity to share your perspective, to shape priorities, and collaborate on solutions. And so we really are, the program has been set up to cast a wide net and use the same questions and receive feedback from as many people as possible. And then that, of course, will be themed and summarized. So all community consultations will take place between 1:30 and 3 p.m. We have them listed there. March 26th is in Pembroke at the Fellows High School. The 27th is in Renfrew at Renfrew Collegiate. April 1st is in Madawaska Valley in Barry's Bay. April 9th is at Opiongo, a field just down from Kelly's Corners. And May 1st is in Petawawa at the Petawawa Civic Center. Thank you. And we'd love to have any questions if you have any.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Councillor Giacono?
Thank you. Thank you for coming and your presentation. Sitting on the Renfrew County, one of the boards for communities within the, within our area, we're dealing with childcare issues. What is your perspective on the daycare problem existing within Renfrew County at this particular time? It was expounded to us that there was an issue that we weren't getting enough daycare placements. And if you look at schools such as Petawawa, where massive deployment of troops will be taking place probably in the next little while, there's additional stress put on the parent that's alone with a child, etc. Whereas you have mommy and daddy, now you have mommy or daddy looking after, picking up children, etc. Do you have any comments on whether Renfrew County is being sort of overlooked as to additional daycare spots within the system?
You want anything back there, or? No?
I know that our most recent build for Renfrew County District School Board was actually in Petawawa, connected to Herman Public School. And those are, all school boards across Ontario do our capital submissions, capital priorities, and that's where the new builds for daycare spaces attached to schools, that's where the funding comes from. It's a process to go through and make the requests, and of course, the County of Renfrew, we need their support, and then the province makes their decisions. So I know that it is an issue that is felt in the County of Renfrew, but I think it is also in the province of Ontario.
Thank you. I think the comments that were made around the table, Mr. Mayor, if you may correct me if I'm wrong, that the issue was that Renfrew County, based on our population, et cetera, as opposed to other regions with higher populations, is perhaps being overlooked or maybe pushed aside a little bit. I mean, that was my interpretation, and I'm pretty open-minded, but I feel, if that's a problem within our communities, we should be, going to the province as a council, et cetera, and also, supporting you folks as well. So that was sort of my impression. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think you're quite accurate, Councillor Giacono, from the last Renfrew County Committee. Councillor Keel, and then I have Councillor
Can I just add to
Sure.
what Mr. Giacono said? So it's my understanding, because I help run the daycare, the children's garden in town, and through there, it's my understanding that the province is only allowing so many spaces, and Renfrew County has their spaces, and they're not giving any more. So I think it's an issue with the province not, and I guess whatever the agreement they have with the federal government, that they're not providing any more spaces to Renfrew County. So you kind of like have to ask them, why are you not? Where you had said, other places my understanding that they have gotten a few more spaces, but not Renfrew County, even though we are growing and we do need it. Like we have, long waiting lists.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think just Councillor Giacono is looking to get that verification from you so that it's not just information received from the county. Councillor Keel?
Thank you so much for coming out tonight. This has been, although short, also very informative and impactful. I believe back in my Fellows High School days, I believe Mrs. Poirier was at Fellows at that point, and Mr. Gannett, I think you were there as well. So I'm starting to feel like I'm back in school all of a sudden. It's been a couple years since those days. I just wanted to commend you on the tools and the trades boot camp, the co-op, the entrepreneur for change. So one of the things that I've been focused on since getting elected in 2022 has been recruitment and retention, largely of professionals. We know the trades are also needed. This past January, the CAO, the deputy mayor, and I, we had a delegation with the Minister of Colleges and Universities to discuss this issue. Basically, the attention I'm trying to bring is, we know we're short on doctors, we know we're short on nurses. I can tell you we're short on lawyers. I think the mayor would agree with me that in some specific focus areas, we're really short on certain lawyers. And the list, as I learned last year in preparing for the delegation, goes on and on. So it's always been my belief that the low-hanging fruit is our own local students and trying to get them to go out and get their education, but then to come home. I feel as though that's likely somewhat easier than, trying to attract somebody born and bred in downtown Toronto to come up here. So I'm just wondering, is that something the school board is focused on? Is that something the school board can expand and focus on? Because from my perspective, and I think it's shared with a number of people, I am going to evoke, one of my consultations was with Jamie Bramberger before that delegation. We're hitting a critical point where we are underserviced in a number of professional areas. I didn't mention veterinarians. That's a critical shortage. So I'm just wondering, is this an area, and Heather's here as well, our economic development, and she knows keeps hearing from me on this issue. Is this something that we can work and grow on and build in terms of recruitment and retention of our students here?
I'm going to let Jacqueline as HR take that one.
Well, and maybe also some curriculum background that maybe would lend to it. I'm kind of leaning down, but anyways, I'll do that. I think a few things, Ian, those are really good points to consider. For the district ourselves, we have been participating on part of the labor market team, again, under Jamie's spearheading, to bring that lens also to what are our local community and agencies saying that they are struggling with, and also to think about as the education sector, what are we struggling with, but what also could we be considering in terms of supporting, identifying what some of the needs are. I think the other thing that's important to note, and I'm going to note your feedback as well, is that in our specialist high skills major program, it does usually get highlighted as the trades, and it did have a very specific kind of workplace focus as a start from the ministry, but it also is to encompass all pathways for students, so direct to the workforce, college and trades, or university. And so hearing some of those pieces, by encouraging students to be part of those programs, then we can expose them to co-op opportunities. And I think it's the co-op opportunities within their own hometown, right, that can inspire a lot of students to say, oh, wow, I love working here in this place. I'd like to go away and get these skills and be able to come back, and live and participate in that environment. Sometimes we know people like to go away for a little bit of time, but I think it's our ability to highlight what we have to offer. And I think good community partners in terms of co-op really encourage people to say, oh, wow, I would like to come back because I love the environment of this workplace, right? Or I love the impact that this job is having. The other piece, similar to that trades boot camp, is highlighting for students, you don't have to leave Renfrew County to work to do this, right? So doing more partnerships with local businesses to say, who are the businesses that need to hire in certain sectors, and more for us to think about on that, because sometimes students, and sometimes us as educators too, we struggle to remember what are all the different roles within different organizations, right? Like if you think about the city of Pembroke, sometimes students might not consider all of the different parts of that organizational structure and that you could work there. So that's something also we could take into consideration. I
greatly appreciate that, especially the comments with the co-op. I think actually in my election platform, I think one of my parts was, I called it Operation Homeward Bound. Not just because I like the movie,
Right.
but the thought that, you know, you're going away, but we kind of hope, you know, that you're coming home at the end of this. So I would really love it if maybe Heather and you could touch base and, you know, if we're talking about partnerships and stuff.
Sure.
You know, the way I described it to the minister is, in my opinion, a lack of these professional, you know, whether it's veterinarians or doctors, you know, I don't want to bring doom and gloom, but I think in terms of our economy, if we start losing those and you have to keep going to Ottawa for every appointment and every specialty thing and trying to pull the trades out of Ottawa, I think we're headed for a not particularly great economic effect. And you know, while the schools and the school board, I guess, maybe don't on a daily basis think of themselves vis-a-vis the health of our local economy, you're kind of in the starting gate for a lot of that. So I certainly hope that we can work further together on this issue.
For sure, and I think also I would add, you know, we're feeling some of those impacts too. We feel it in some, like IT is difficult for us. Some of our education sector pieces are difficult to have enough staff locally to fulfill those needs. So we understand.
I'll just add to that too. So just again, go back to my other hat that I wear with the nursery school. So we've had co-op students come, like they enjoy it. And then we have a local college where they can do the ECE. So, and, you know, they've been a co-op, they did the ECE, then they've come back as, you know, employees. So it's nice to have that where they don't get, you know, tempted by going somewhere else. They're like, oh, right? You know, you go to the big city of Ottawa and, you know, you like what you're there, or somehow, you know, you're some, just circumstances changes and now you're in Ottawa. So, you know, if we offer the co-op, they like it, and we have training for them, and it keeps them, you know, within the area, then that really, really helps.
Councillor Frenier?
Thank you for your presentation. I guess my questions are around transportation. And I know that the consortium handles bus scheduling and that type of thing. And I know we had a real problem last year. So I guess my concern is two-part. I know that there's been large changes in pickups for children. There's very few door pickups in the city. I know there's more door pickups when you get outside the boundaries of Pembroke. So there's a couple of concerns. So going forward, negotiations, I think, start in the spring with the transportation. And I know last year all I heard from the residents was, why did they let it go so late? It was August before we found out there was a crisis, I believe, mid to late. So that's one question, is that process gonna be done earlier in the year now so that parents, caregivers have time to, so that's one question.
Do you want to ask both questions, or do you want me to answer first?
I'll ask both.
Okay.
And then it's about the stops that are selected. Some children on my street have to walk a lot further. They're very young. They used to get picked up at their door at the end of my street, Elgin Street. Now the parents have to drive to almost Boundary, but it's a narrow street. And this is a concern that actually I brought up with the other school board, with the consortium. We have the snowmobile trail that crosses Elgin. The cars have to park right at the top because the bus comes to that berm. But the visibility is terrible. So I don't know. I know that they brought the concern to me, and I talked to the consortium, and they said, well, children of a certain age are allowed to walk up to, I think, 1 point. You'd know the number.
I do. Jen will know the
But there's no sidewalks, you know, and these ratepayers, although they're in the city of Pembroke, they're not getting the same service as maybe their counterparts in the country that don't have sidewalks and have to walk. So, like, I know I'm not going to get onto it, but if you could answer, because it is a concern, especially with the Algonquin Trail, the snowmobiles, and there's cars parked when the snow is there. You know, I mean, I contacted them last September. They sent someone out to look, and they said there's lots of room on the road. But that's before the snowbanks appear. Anyway.
All
if you
right,
could
well, I'll
answer
start
all
with the
that.
first question. So the first question, yes, I would like to acknowledge the City of Pembroke support and all municipalities within the County of Renfrew support while we worked through the transportation disruption. I would like to acknowledge the parents, the neighbors, everyone who pulled through and got our kids to school, as well as our co-terminus board. We couldn't have done it without you, and it was really important to have those kids in classes and in-person learning. So I'd like to acknowledge the support that we did receive from everybody across the county. We won't be going through that for the next 5+1+1 years because what we did through that negotiation process was establish the rates for each of the upcoming years. Previous to this past summer or so, we did negotiate annually, but that's come to an end. So we're good for 5+1+1 years. We won't be going through that again. The walk distances, yes, JK and SKs are up to 500, which is less than the ministry expectation. Our grade 1 to grade 6s are 1.6, which is less than the ministry expectation. And our high school students and 7s and 8s walk the 2.5, which is also less than the ministry expectation of 3.2 kilometers. And so the consortium did move away from residential stops and to the community stops, not just here in the city of Pembroke, but across the county, in Arnprior and Renfrew and Deep River and any of our communities. They've moved to the community stops because it makes it more efficient, as well as walk distances. The ministry also sets ride times, and so it just allows for more efficient operations. I do hear you on the berm and the rise, and so I know the consortium does do site visits to make sure that the locations that are picked are safe for the parents and the students and everybody's going there. I hear you on the September and the winter and the snow, although most of it melted today, so I think even if I asked them to go out, I don't think they would see it, right? But I'm going to tuck that away in my pocket and for sure bring those, the consortium, there's probably an email address and telephone number. They do take all concerns seriously, and they do go out because, you know, the student safety is their top priority for sure. You're welcome.
Mayor?
Hi. As an employee of the school board, and I've been around quite a while, as long as you, Jacqueline, and you were there when I first started teaching 20 years ago. I really want to commend the school board for equity and inclusion, the reconciliation that is so important for the country. The other day at my school, when I was leaving, and I had to go to an appointment, the drumming session was with the primary children in a full hour session. Then there was two other classes. So, you know, it's not just a drumming session, it's a conversation of the history of the First Nations and what reconciliation is. And Jacqueline, can you tell the meeting about the priority days that the board has implemented? And that all deals with inclusion. Can you just describe that for a minute?
Sure. So we did implement this as our soft launch this year, and then it'll be a full launch next year. Priority days. So in addition to the recognition of calendar days that we see recognized in our country and in our province, usually specifically around Christianity, we also have days that are priority days for recognizing different significantly religious or culturally significant days. And on those priority days, we have two kind of ways that we phrase it. We have days of significance, which would be a larger number of days where we acknowledge verbally really the day or through other activities in schools. And then on priority days, we have specific days where we indicate that we will not have any other major activities planned for that day. So we won't have a professional development day on a priority day. We won't have a final examination day on a priority day. So any staff or students who celebrate those priority days will not be felt that they're missing something if they've gone to engage in that their own culture or religious activity on those days.
And if you walk through any school in Richmond County or go into any classroom, or see any billboard in the hallway, bulletin board, the students have demonstrated their learning and their acknowledgement of the sense of community to reflect the multiculturalism that we have in the country. So it's a really good kudos to the school board for that. And the other comment I had, we were talking before the meeting tonight, Sandy Tilheimer, the co-op teacher at Fellows High School, contacted me 2 years ago, and she said, "How is the transit going?" She said, "We have co-op students and they need transportation, and so they can't always take the cabs." And so I was communicating with her today, and I thanked her for her support. I know she talked to the consultant 2 years ago, and so we're starting a 3-year pilot project in July or August. And I know that the school board was a big supporter and will be a partner with us in making it work, because if it's not used enough, we won't be able to continue. But it's all about the partnerships in the community, and it fills that void. And when we started our youth council 2 years ago, we ended up joining with the local youth hub. But we had a meeting, and Councillor Keel was there, and the first question we asked, what's the number one challenge in Pembroke? And we had about 25 youth there. What's the number one challenge in Pembroke? And they said, getting to a job or a co-op or something with lack of transit. So, you know, it all fits in with the co-op, and they can take it during the day and go home after work by it. So it's all about the partnership. So that's a good thing too. So thanks for supporting that initiative.
Do you want to comment?
Well, and that is really great news, because we do have a group that's currently working on support for getting those students to and from their co-op placements, and so we'll be in touch definitely to make sure that that's supported.
Great.
Yes.
Can I add just one thing, Mayor Gervais? I just want to also say thank you for, moving that forward as well, and it will be a great thing for the community. And further to Councillor Keel's comment, it may ensure that some people get to a co-op placement somewhere that will inspire them to those next steps that perhaps if they had to walk or use some other means, they might not be able to take that opportunity.
Okay, so thank you for the presentation and the dialogue, and certainly I think the partnership is alive and well. I know that our CAO is involved in the RAG group and keeps us up to date in terms of the involvement there and looking for, as you say, efficiencies. And so thank you, and we'll certainly be in touch.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. Okay, moving on to new business. First up, we have welcome Ms. Sutherland, Storage Suites Developments Purchase at McCool Park.
Yes, thank you, everyone. So the recommendation this evening is that the Operations Committee endorse and recommend to Council approval to enter into an agreement of purchase and sale with Storage Suites Developments, Inc. for property known municipally as 124 Woodcrest Drive, located in the McCool Business Park. On August 18th, 2024, Council in caucus directed staff to work with this development group after accepting their offer in principle to build the development in our remaining piece of land in the McCool Business Park. This parcel is 2.288 acres in size, and where they will develop a series of buildings which will operate as self-storage units, contractor storage units, as well as a business office for the business's own contractor shop and storage. So this all meets the permitted uses of the M1 zoning in the park, and their development will meet our 12% minimum requirement in the industrial park. So the developer has completed the steps of obtaining this and registering the survey, so the sale can now be finalized. And as a note, land in the McCool Park sells for $12,000 an acre, so this parcel at 2.288 acres amounts to $27,456 plus HST, and the revenue from this sale will include that purchase price as well as future taxes.
Thank you. Questions, comments, motions? Councillor Keel?
So I would move that the Operations Committee endorse and recommend to Council approval to enter into an agreement of purchase and sale with Storage Suites Developments, Inc. for property known municipally as 124 Woodcrest Drive, located in the McCool Business Park.
Thank you. Seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Moving on to the next one, funding agreement. Welcome, Mr. Lewis, Highway 148 reconstruction.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the recommendation that the Operations Committee endorse and recommend approval of the funding agreement for the city portion of the works under Highway 148 reconstruction project. The cost to the city is approximately $330,000 plus applicable HST, and as part of the 2025 capital budget, a budget of $568,544 was identified for this project. So MTO is undertaking the reconstruction of Highway 148 from city limits just west of Angus Campbell Drive to approximately 300 meters east of Greenwood Road intersection in the township of Laurentian Valley. The work includes pavement rehabilitation, sanitary sewer, water main installations, improvements to intersections, pedestrian and cycling safety, and highway drainage. As part of the construction, the city will be funding for the installation of new sidewalks, water main, and sanitary sewer within the city's service area. MTO will be responsible for all tendering, award, construction, administration, and supervision for the primary works, as well as for the primary works. And I did include the funding agreement for your information, included to the package. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Questions and comments and motions. Councillor Keel?
Two questions. Number one, do we know when this is actually going to happen? I know that this project, I think, has been some years delayed. Do we have an update on that?
The latest update we received from MTO yesterday afternoon was we don't anticipate to see major reconstruction this year. The anticipation last time I spoke with MTO and in the information we received yesterday is they're going to prep, which does mean potentially construction, but not actual upgrades. So you're not going to see a new road, but you may see widening happening that preps for the following year so that they can detour traffic. The intent for this reconstruction project is to carry 2 lanes of traffic through the entire reconstruction. That's very difficult when you're doing a lot of underground work, especially very deep underground with the amount of traffic that's there. So they basically have to build another lane outside of the existing roadway. The anticipation is that they will start prepping that widened road so that they can direct traffic around when they go into full reconstruction next year. So I do not anticipate you're going to see full reconstruction started this year.
All right. The second question is, you mentioned that the province is responsible for all the tendering and whatnot. Has that taken place yet? Or is that a future item? And is our contribution subject to change if their tendering, as often happens to us, does not come back as they expected? Or is this a fixed number that we're contributing?
Through your worship, the tendering has not happened yet. They anticipate the tendering to happen very, very soon, but they need these agreements in place. We've been asked to ensure that these agreements are back in the hands of MTO by April 2nd, so hence they can go to tender then in early April. In discussions with MTO, we believe this to be an upset limit. However, understanding everything in the world right now and how things may change, there is a clause in the agreement that says this is an estimate and an estimate only and is subject to change. With that being said, we feel reassured that this is the number.
Okay, because the only reason I ask is typically we're responsible for the tendering, whereas, in this case, we're kind of already hooked in, and then it's kind of whatever they're doing. So that's why I kind of wanted to hear from you. On the one hand, they're giving us an estimate, but on the other hand, we're not in control. So that's why I thought maybe the question should be asked. So yeah. I appreciate your response.
I have Deputy Mayor and then I have Councillor Frenier.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis, before I make a motion, can you comment on, I remember a couple of years ago, you said that, like, we're putting in a secondary sewer line, and then you can't dig for another 25 years, right? So the secondary sewer line was for future expansion of businesses, and once it's in, right? So this was a premier opportunity to do this when MTO is doing the work.
Through you, Your Worship, this is the only opportunity to
Right.
do underground infrastructure installation within the next 20 years. The MTO will put a moratorium on Highway 148 when this reconstruction is complete, and we will not be able to do anything with it in the next 20 years. No expansion to underground infrastructure, nothing of that nature. They will not allow a permit to cross the road if it involves cutting the road open. That will not happen during that moratorium. So we will be putting in the sanitary line under these works that I'm referring to in this report, so that we don't have to worry about it down the road.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So I'd motion that we accept the funding agreement.
Is there a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Councillor Keel, now Councillor Lafreniere.
My question is as they refer to municipal work. I know that the area that affects us is just west of Angus Campbell, and it goes to the east side of the LCBO. But in the, I'm looking at anything to do with increased costs. It says 100% of all increased costs incurred by the ministry attributed to unforeseen obstacles or other problems encountered during construction. What if they're having trouble? So I know this abuts up to going towards Highway 48 out that way. What if they're having problems there that affect the cost of the project? Does it only apply if they're having problems on a pipe that is on the City of Pembroke property? What if they have a delay outside our area, but it affects, you know, the timeline or increased costs? Would we bear any of that? Like, how are they going to know what?
Through your worship, the only changes in cost would be, if appropriate, the only changes in cost would be on city works. So if it was the sanitary sewer that's being installed for the city, that's part of the funding agreement, we could see an increase in cost. I do not anticipate that. The sidewalk that we're paying for, just the works that are included in this agreement. So if it's outside of this agreement, which all the works outside of the city's serviced area, we would not be charged anything for that.
Okay.
And included, if I may,
Yes.
included in this agreement is a $25,000 contingency allowance that gives us some room should something happen, as we do with all our construction contracts.
How many funding partners are there? Is it just the ministry and the city on this project? Is there another municipal entity?
Through your worship, the Township of Laurentian Valley is getting municipal works done under the MTO contract as well.
Okay. I just find it, by just saying municipal work, it could be Pembroke or city. You know, if it was even to say in here, back in the terms of reference, that municipal work in this contract applies to municipal work for the city of Pembroke. Because just saying municipal work, they're doing municipal work for Laurentian Valley too. I just want to make sure that it's specific to the city. know?
Through your worship, this is a standard MTO contract.
Right.
They do this type of stuff all the time with various different funding partners. It has been vetted by 2 different legal teams to ensure that
Okay.
it meets the requirements. Additionally to that, the drawings that designate City of Pembroke works are attached to the back of the agreement.
No, I saw that.
Excuse me. So that defines what is our works and what may be somebody else's. So the fact that it doesn't necessarily say the municipality of the City of Pembroke, it definitely is very, very clear on what is.
Appendix.
That's right.
Thank you.
Yes, because what you're saying, Councillor Fernie, under definitions, municipal work is as set out in Schedule B. So if there's no other questions or comments, call those in favor. That is carried. Thank you. Mr. Lewis, on that same thread, Highway 148 sidewalk agreement.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the recommendation is that the Operation Committee endorse and recommend excuse me, to council the approval of the sidewalk agreement for the ongoing maintenance and repair of the city sidewalk installed within MTO right-of-way. Costs associated with the ongoing maintenance of the sidewalk would be covered under our annual O&M budgets. MTO is reconstructing 148, as I just spoke of, from the city limits to at west of Angus Campbell Drive to approximately 300 meters east of Greenwood Road. And as part of this works, AODA compliant sidewalks are to be installed for the city of Pembroke along the south side of Highway 148. As the sidewalks are to be funded, maintained, and insured by the municipality, a legal agreement is required between the municipality and MTO for the ongoing maintenance and repair of the sidewalks. The city would be responsible for the ongoing maintenance and repair of the sidewalk from the city limits to the easterly entrance of the mall property at the LCBO. And I did attach a copy of the agreement and a map to show that to the staff report. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Deputy Mayor?
So just to be clear, the sidewalk is going from the corner at the bulk barn down to the drive-in road?
Through you, Your Worship, any sidewalk that exists presently in front of, hope I get this right, the Pinewood Retirement Home. From there, around the corner to adjacent to the museum, and then from the corner at the bulk barn to just past the entrance that would take you into the mall at the LCBO. The sidewalk will continue further than that. It is anticipated that the sidewalk will continue further than that, but that's in Township of Laurentian Valley and is not part of this agreement.
Right. So this is good news from two aspects, safety and active living. People that want to walk to a store or just go for a stroll at night or during the day. So I'm very glad to see this. So I make a motion that we accept the agreement.
Okay, so the recommendation moved by the Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Frenier. Any questions? I kind of thought something because you're frowning. Councillor Keel.
So we're plowing all the way down to the LCBO in the winter.
The sidewalk only, through you, Your
sidewalk.
Worship. The sidewalk only.
If the sidewalk continues, who's plowing it after the LCBO?
The sidewalk will not be installed by the Ministry of Transportation unless there's an agreement with somebody to maintain it, so that would be the Township of Laurentian Valley that would have to sign that agreement and honor a maintenance agreement.
And it needs to be maintained.
It needs to be maintained. If there's not a maintenance agreement in place, the Ministry of Transportation will not install it. Hence why the agreement's in front of council now before they go to tender.
Do that many people walk down there?
Through you, Your Worship, I don't have stats, but I've seen a fair bit of walking in that direction. The Tim Hortons at the Home Depot entrance is a popular spot, and I've seen a fair bit of walkers there. There is a hard surface back of curb now for a good majority of that. So you wouldn't necessarily see a path worn in the grass or anything like that because there is an actual paved boulevard hard surface. But I have witnessed walkers in that area.
I mean, I've witnessed walkers in that area too, but certainly not the way I witnessed walkers downtown or on Bell Street or... Okay. That's all.
Thank you. Councillor Frenier?
Just through the chair, further to Councillor Keel's question, I've had comments from people that run, and they run, maybe they live out drive-in road area, but then they run into the city all the way downtown. And I have had many comments about the fact that they'd love to see that, have a safer passageway. So I understand maybe now you may not see a lot, but there is a lot of runners that probably would start using that path. I know they use the trail sometimes too, but I think it's with the developments that are going up at our neighbors, we have to do this. Once they come into the city, they are our responsibility. So I think it's very important that this is there.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor. Call the question. Those in favor? Against? Carried. Next one, Mr. Lewis, is Crandall Street Pumping Station upgrades.
Thank you, Your Worship. Recommendation is that the Operations Committee endorse and recommend to Council the following. Approve award of the Crandall Street Pumping Station upgrade contract number 21-2045D to Black & McDonald Limited in the amount of $789,675 plus HST, and approve a project contingency allowance of $50,000 for additional expenditures as required, with any budget shortfall funded from the Highway 148 reconstruction project surplus funds, for a total project value of $839,675 plus applicable HST. So there was $690,000 allocated in the 2025 capital budget. The project costs as tendered, including tendering, contract administration, construction, additional expenditures, and the net HST total $949,425.09. That represents a budget shortfall of $259,349.09, which can be funded from the surplus funds in the Highway 148 project that I spoke of just earlier. And that surplus is estimated to be just over $264,000. The contract was publicly advertised. It was tendered. One bid was received. The tendering and the opening followed all established rules contained in our procurement policy, and the bid was received from Black & McDonald at $789,675. So as I mentioned, part of the capital budget, $690,000 was allocated for the upgrades to the existing sanitary pump station. The scope of the project is briefly described in the staff report. The submitted tender is approximately 23% higher than the engineer's estimate. We have reviewed that engineer's estimate. We've reviewed the tender submitted, and we have also done some review, made some calls to various different contractors and our contacts to see why it's higher and why we didn't get further bids. We do believe that the potential of tariffs have something to do with it. There's a number of new processes that are going to be happening at this Crandall lift station that aren't happening right now. For example, the installation of a grinder into the lift station, which doesn't exist at this point. So they have also increased the prices. I wanted to note that in comparison, the department has closed several annual maintenance tenders for 2025, and they are below anticipated costs. We have tried tendering this project once before. This is the second time. The first time we tendered it, we got 0 bids, and this time we only had 1 bid. I did also want to mention that although we only received 1 bid, there were several other bidders at the mandatory site meeting that reviewed the project, the scope, and decided not to bid. Black & McDonald have significant experience on projects similar to this one. The city and the consultant have confidence that this mechanical contractor can complete the works. Alternates considered, we could maintain the status quo, which could lead to further degradation and failure of the existing equipment. As well, there would be a risk to the servicing of the adjacent multi-residential complexes and the restaurant that's also adjacent to this location. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Giacomo.
Your Worship, I would move we accept the recommendation for discussion as presented.
Deputy Mayor, are you seconding it? Yes? Okay, seconding it, and then I have Councillor Keel.
I'm going to be in favor of this. Really, Brian, I just wanted to commend you on your additional information, your discussion about the tender or the overage and you looking into it or whatnot made me feel very comfortable. So I know I'm usually the one around the table, I think, picking on you for being over, but I just wanted to say that I really appreciated this report and your delivery tonight. It kind of was checking all the boxes that I was looking for, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Councillor Giacomo?
Worship, in regards to Mr. Lewis's comments about tariffs, I have some great concern there as to the procurement process, etc. Are we going to be nailed again? Will we be able to handle it? at the 25%, or God knows what it may be, depending on the President of the United States, his mood for the day. It could be 50% or 80%. Are we prepared to absorb that if that happens? That is my great concern.
Through your worship, there is a contingency allowance that's part of this. It's a small contingency allowance based on the value of the project. It wouldn't cover 25%. But it's a difficult question to answer. If we get hit with tariffs like that on projects that are started or ongoing, we will have to look at our capital plan again and the budget with the treasurer to determine where we may or may not be able to find some additional funds. With that being said, we are working with AMO, all the municipalities are working with AMO, AORs, various different organizations that support public works and to determine whether or not there's alternatives for us to ensure that we can get our infrastructure renewal completed without feeling the brunt of those tariffs.
Councillor Keel?
Just with respect to what we are dealing with and the insanity in the Oval Office right now, is this a fixed price contract, or like if suddenly next week Mr. Carney says something and all of a sudden, as Councillor Giacono just said, it's a 75% tariff, do we bear the cost of that, or is the company bearing the cost of that possibility? Like, can this price change midway through, I guess, is what I'm worried about.
Through your worship, the Treasury Department has been working very, very hard and diligently over the last little while since the tariff discussions has come up. And we have input clauses in our procurement documents to help deal with those tariffs. If we were to make this a fixed, so in short answer is no. This is not a fixed contract in that sense. It is a fixed fee contract in the normal setting of procurement, but we have included clauses in our documents now that basically say if we get hit with heavy tariffs, unbeknownst, that we will work with the contractor to help. It's very, very similar to what we have been carrying for numerous years now with the AC index, the asphalt cement index. When we do paving, as oil prices fluctuate, so does the price of AC, and we compensate the contractor for increases in prices. We also get reduction in prices when the AC prices go down. We do the same thing as with a fuel index. We have now put into the contract that allows for the contractor to negotiate with the city should tariffs hit. If we don't do that, the risk is we will not get any bids. We won't have any contractors willing to take the risk on a 25%, 50%, 75% tariff. We'll get no work done. So, as I mentioned, various different organizations that deal with public works and municipalities are working very, very hard to try and mitigate those risks that are there. And as we roll along, we will work through to ensure we get our infrastructure renewal.
Are we discussing with them how much, like for instance, I mean, right now we're speculating on the possibility of tariffs. If perhaps maybe not on this contract, but on certain contracts, they might be buying things from Canadian suppliers in the first place that might be more, well, that wouldn't be tariffs. So are we looking at that aspect in our current tender process? Like, whether or not they're focusing on more Canadian solutions that wouldn't be subject to tariffs?
The existing agreements out there are still agreements in place, and we can't go around those. So NAFTA, and I can never remember them all, but all those trade agreements that are there right now are still trade agreements that are there, and a municipality can't go around those agreements that exist. So we can't put a Buy Canadian clause into our contracts. Otherwise, we don't meet those agreements, from what I understand from the Treasury Department. But we are working with, again, all these various organizations. We will work with contractors to ensure that we get work done. We assist in providing contacts. If we were to find out that it's difficult to get a piece of equipment, we would help the contractor search and locate for other equipment. if that helps answer your question.
Councillor Giacono, and then I'll call the question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't mean to be too verbose here, but I need a question answered. If we commit to the contract and through some extraordinary event where the price just goes out of whack and we decide we cannot commit to it, are we in court with a legal suit that we signed a contract and did not fulfill our obligation? Or are there circumstances within the contract that allows us to have a particular clause in there that states that we cannot commit, we will not commit due to extraordinary circumstances? Thank you.
Through your worship, this is a legal and binding contract. So with any legal and binding contract, it is in place. Should something extraordinary happen, we would try to negotiate with the contractor if the contractor had lost other works. Due to this, I could see them filing claim for lost profit, and we would have to work through that. It would depend on an actual loss. The contractor would have to prove loss. So if they had a crew set aside to work on this contract, if they've ordered materials to work on this contract and we decided to pull the pin and try and get out of it, there could be a potential loss that they would have claim on.
Okay, call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Okay, Mr. Lewis, last one for the evening for yourself, waste management contract extension.
Thank you, your worship. The recommendation is that the Operations Committee endorse and recommend to Council approval of award for the extension of the waste management contract to Miller Waste by 9 months over the period of April 1st to December 31st of 2025, and that would be at Miller Waste's proposed rates, and that a second one-year extension be applied over the period of January 1st to December 31st, 2026 at the partner municipality's average blended rate. So just so everyone is aware, all costs and calculations in the report are based on the city's 2024 tonnage numbers. We did a number of calculations to come up with the cost savings and so forth. And just so everyone is aware, we're using the 2024 tonnage numbers for that. So as I had discussed at the Operations Committee meeting in February, the city should see a reduction in expenses due to the city not paying for the collection of recycling materials with the Blue Box transition and the producers taking responsibility of the recycling program. The anticipated reduction is approximately $159,600 at the end of 2025, again based on the 2024 tonnage numbers. Using this credit to offset the increase in waste collection costs for 2025, the city should see a year-end surplus of about $13,400. It would be suggested by the Operations Department that these funds be transferred to reserves to help offset the collection fees for 2026 and to help reduce rate increases for residents. So based on the partners' proposed blended rates, the city will be required to increase individual curbside unit waste collection in the magnitude of $13 a unit for the 2026 budget year. And just to be sure everyone understands, the partners are the Township of Laurentian Valley, the City of Pembroke, and the Town of Petawawa. We work together on this contract. Additionally, recycling collection fees for non-eligible sources will still need to be developed. They have to be developed after we get confirmation from transition and from CMO. So some background over the 10-year term of this contract. The annual CPI increases provided for in the contract has not kept pace with inflation, and that has had a significant impact on Miller Waste costs, namely labor costs, fuel costs, and equipment maintenance costs. Miller Waste proposed pricing for the extension is listed in the report. Couple of the main key points, with a total of 40% increase in waste pickup, 9% for organics, and 302% for bulky pickup. Those percentage increases are for the 2-year period in total. I wanted to make sure I noted the bulk waste rate that was provided for us when the contract was signed 10 years ago was in error. and Miller has honored that low price through the entire length of the contract. So hence why we're seeing such a dramatic increase now. They have come forward and told us that it was an error. When you look at the rates, you can see that it is quite drastically different than the other rates that are provided. The partner municipalities contract with Miller Waste, it does expire at the end of this month, March 28th. But it does have an option for 2 additional one-year terms. So we have been working with the provincial groups on transition of the recycling program and what that means for future collection contracts for both recycling and other waste streams as such. And until the full scope is better detailed, we have not released a procurement for a new contract. The partners have proposed a fee schedule to Miller Waste Group. We are awaiting confirmation. So this report is in front of you, but I do not have confirmation from Miller Waste as of yet. We feel comfortable. The intent would then be to formalize the extended agreement using the same conditions as the existing contract with new modified dates and necessary changes, removing the necessary changes that would be required to remove the recycling program. Our existing contract includes recycling. We have to remove all of those clauses that deal with recycling. So the contract's not going to be a straightforward extension. There are some stuff that just has to be removed due to the provincial program. So the blended rate proposal sees waste pickup rates increasing by roughly 33% in comparison to the 40 that was proposed. Organics for about 8.5%, and the bulky remains at 302. So due to the significant increase for bulky item collection, staff would recommend considering canceling the fall 2026 bulky item collection. We'd keep the status quo for 2025 as it's already in the existing budget in 2025 with that reduction in fees that we'll see, or credit if we want to call it that, for the recycling. And just some information on bulky. Historically, the fall bulky item collection is less popular than the spring collection. 3-year average collection is about 99 metric tons of waste in the fall, whereas we see closer to 160 in the spring. At the new rate, if we were to do the fall collection again, it would cost approximately $33,000 versus the $8,200 we normally would pay, or have been paying in the last 10 years. So the partners will use the extended Miller Waste contract time to procure the next waste collection contract. We are planning on doing that next contract for a 7-year period with the possibility of 3 one-year extensions. And we're doing that to try and mirror the province's term, the contract that they have for collecting recycling in the area. Just so that everybody is aware, the existing contractor for SEMO, which is picking up the recycling for the province, is the Miller Waste Group. So a couple alternatives, or an alternative considered is we accept Miller Waste's proposed cost increase for 9 months, and we attempt to complete all the necessary steps to procure a new long-term collection contract by January 1st of 2026. I'm not confident it's doable. We could go through the procurement process. We're going to hire a consultant that's going to help us with the legal ease, the transition, all that kind of stuff, to basically write up a document to put it out to contractors that would do collection. Then we'll have those proposals come in, we'll evaluate, we'll rate, we'll basically be able to sign a contract with a new collection contractor. The requirement in those contracts is you must start out with a new fleet of vehicles, and those vehicles must be maintained in excellent condition for the period of the contract. If we try and do this in 9 months, we're not going to get new trucks. There's no way we're going to be able to start the new contract with the fleet of new trucks, which is standard practice in these type of contracts. It's just, there's no way you're going to get trucks in 9 months. We don't even have a contractor awarded in 9 months. So I just wanted to make sure it's an option, but it's not necessarily doable if we want to adhere to our regular contract standards. And I also wanted to inform council, the committee, that the partners did reach out to other municipalities And I spoke with a couple municipalities again today to get an understanding of how other waste collection contracts have been going and rates and numbers that have been coming in. And I can confirm that most municipalities are seeing significant increases. One of them signed on a new collection contract 2 years ago and saw increases in this magnitude at the same time they were going through transition. So we are starting our transition now. They started their transition 2 years ago and saw the same effect of these rate increases. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody understands we have done a comparison. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Any questions for Mr. Lewis to unpack this? Councillor Keel?
So the bulk item collect, do we pay per ton?
Your Worship, that is correct. We pay per ton.
So if we cancel the fall, are we then not just going to have 256 metric tons the following spring? Like, is there really a savings, or are we just shifting from fall to... I'm not keen on taking away the people's fall pickup.
Through Your Worship, not necessarily would it just wait until the spring. It would depend on whether or not the resident had storage space for the oven or the stove or whatever it is that they need to get rid of. They may put it in the back of the half-ton or in a trailer, or find a friend that can help them take it out to the landfill site themselves and get rid of it. We may see just added to the spring collection. And I want to make sure that everybody understands that's a 2026 cancellation. We don't necessarily have to make that decision right now as to whether or not we are doing that. In 2025, I have confirmed that we are going to go ahead with the bulky. It's already on the schedules that have been printed and are being circulated now. But it was a suggestion to help council understand how we may be able to mitigate some of these increases.
I mean, I guess I appreciate it, but I certainly won't be canceling it in an election year. And I mean, to say to the resident that we charge you as much as we do for garbage, and now you go move your own fridge or stove. I won't be supporting that either. So I think we have to keep it. And I mean, it's not a great 302% is certainly not a great increase, but at least dollar for dollar, 8,000 to 33,000 is, I realize it's taxpayer money, but it's probably one of the smaller increases we go from budget year to budget year. So I won't be in favor of removing that. The rest of it, well explained. It is what it is. I think I'm quite sure, because this is now the fourth time I've gone through this document. My only concern was the bulk item. Everything else, great job, Brian.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion. Deputy Mayor?
A motion to accept the waste management contract extension to Miller Waste as detailed for 9 months, and then also a second one-year extension, January 1st to December 31st.
Okay, so a motion on the floor, effectively what the recommendation is there a seconder for it? Seconded by Councillor Frenier. Any other discussion? Councillor Keel?
So that motion still leaves in place the discussion about the bulk pickup?
Through Your Worship, before we do calendar for 2026, I'll be back in front of committee again, and we'll work through any of those. We'll also have an opportunity to speak on the ineligible sources and determine what we're going to do then, so I'll bring it up again at that time as well.
Councillor Giacono?
Your Worship, members of council, I have a concern with the bulk pickup being, I can see a washing machine or a fridge being loaded in the back of the truck, and rather going to the landfill, it'll go to some side road in the country and be dropped there, so they don't have to pay the charge for the dumping. So that, I certainly can see that. Not everybody would do that, but there are individuals will just say, I'm not going there. We've had garbage come into our community from another area, so it's reciprocal. So I just hope that that doesn't happen, and that may be under some consideration when you come back. Thank you.
Thank you. So, call the question. Those in favor of this motion, it is carried. Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Lewis, and good evening.
Thank you, Your Worship.
are you in charge of water?
I am.
Okay,
Sir, if you want to go outside, you can talk to Mr. Lewis as long as Mr. Lewis wants to stay.
You can't close the door. Oh, okay.
Next item on the list is LAS Municipal Staff Committee. Mr. Unruh.
Yes, through you, the chair. So the recommendation in front of you tonight is that the City of Pembroke Operations Committee receive LAS Municipal Staff Committee Water and Wastewater Business Case Development, and furthermore, that CEO Dave Unruh be nominated to participate in the Municipal Staff Committee being created by LAS to develop a business case for potential creating a joint municipal service corporation for water and wastewater. So I'll just jump right through to the discussion. If you would take a look at some other municipalities that have gone through this, LAS has provided the framework for this report. So it's an identical report that you'll see in front of all the different municipalities. The one difference is the part on staffing. I've moved up to the front. So I had a chance to review this template prior to LAS releasing it to the public, and I wanted them to put in that section on staffing, and I also wanted it at the front. So the idea of this municipal service corp is that it will not affect staffing. It's not a contracting out proposal. A municipal service corp, currently you have the mayor and council, then you have the CEO, and then all the different employees underneath that. In regards to a municipal service corp, you have the mayor and council, and then you have the board of directors for the municipal service corp. So in essence, the staff are employees of the corporation. They just go through the municipal service corp. So I just wanted to highlight that it is not a contracting out. The other thing too is that in regards to the legislation, only a municipality can own a municipal service corp. So it cannot be owned by any third-party agency or, federal. Like, it has to be owned by a municipality. So I just wanted to bring that clear, because one of the big things for me entering in this review of an alternative is that staff is kept whole. When I talked to another municipality that has gone through this, the town of Innisfil, they've had a municipal service corp, I think, for probably 12 to 15 years, and only this last union contract negotiations, you'll see some variation in regards to the contracts. When they initially created the municipal service corp, the employees moved over to this municipal service corp, as using the same HR, using the same administration. And so in regards to the employees, it was basically, you're reporting directly up through council, and now at the day one of a municipal service corp, you're reporting up through a municipal service corp, and then through the mayor and council. So I just wanted to highlight that part, because that one is really close to my heart. We have great employees working at the City of Pembroke, and I don't want to see any of their their livelihood affected at all. So I just wanted to bring that up. Some of the the benefits in regards to municipal staff participating in a municipal service corp. So, we'll have the influence on what it will look like in regards to the governance model, how the operations will work. So to get in at the ground level is really important, so that we can structure the municipal service corp that is best for the City of Pembroke. If you go to page 3, what are the benefits for LAS, Joint Municipal Service Corp? So LAS created a report last year, and it was presented to the board in January. And in essence, they did kind of like a tabletop exercise in regards to what a municipal service corp would look like. And at the board meeting in January, they got approval to go ahead with the business case. So LAS, which has a lot of experience in regards to working and helping municipalities through different procurement, through different funding opportunities, and also dealing with some of the hard issues that we deal with. And so they've seen this as an item that should be addressed. So they are completely funding the business case and the review of it. There is no cost to the city of Pembroke, so they will be the ones that will be hiring the consultant. They will be the ones, hiring the accountants to review the documents and that. So that's some of the benefits of going through an LAS versus us. Like we could decide that we would like to do it on our own. And so that's the next one on page 4 is that why not pursue it locally? I think the benefit of having that umbrella review it. In saying that in regards to a local, like having just the city of Pembroke pursue it versus many different municipalities, what I think really works well is that if it is more of a regionalized municipal service corp. So one of the options that could be thrown out there is that a municipal service corp that would include Whitewater, Laurentian Valley, and ourselves in regards to water and sewer. And I think that makes sense in regards to having one that involves, say, a municipal service corp with the city of Pembroke and maybe, say, some southern municipality. That, to me, doesn't make sense. And that will be the idea of the business case. The business case and what's being asked of tonight is just that that we proceed with the business case. Again, this is the kind of one step, but there's several gates for the council to take a look at. It'll probably take the full year for the business case to be developed and brought back to the municipality. So at that time, once you receive the report, and you'll be getting updates throughout the year, depending on the outcomes, at that point, the council could say, no, that doesn't work for us. One of the other things I look at in regards to this process, it might highlight some benefits that we don't see. So maybe we don't go with a municipal service corp, but maybe there's some additional opportunities that we find working with some of our neighbors, although that we work closely with them right now, but there might be some opportunities exposed through this business case. And I guess the bigger question is like, why and why now? The why now is the fact of that LAS is funding it, so it's no cost to the city of Pembroke. But why? And so it's not an idea of cost reductions. It is that ability for the municipal service corp to borrow money differently. They have the ability under, and it's different legislation, so under the Municipal Act, there's certain reserves that are required, and it's almost like a future-looking reserve setup, where a municipal service corp is similar to like a utilities, and so there's a different funding model in regards to that. I know that's a lot of information, and I don't totally understand it all. This is the idea of going through the business case, is basically kind of grabbing that rock, looking underneath it, and see if it makes sense. And I think that's what we have to do as a municipality. I think we need to take a look at all opportunities going forward. Water and sewer is one utility that keeps on going up. And if there's opportunities to do some partnering, to do something that's innovative, I think we need to take a look at it.
Questions for Mr. Lewis? I have the Deputy Mayor and I have Councillor Keel.
So you have my back here. So you and I attended Municipal Service Corp presentation at AMO in London 2 years ago by the Township of Oro Medonte. They gave a detailed presentation, and I see where they've already started their Municipal Service Corp for environmental services, for water, wastewater catchment and lighting network, and mostly municipal drinking water. So they started one, and I see where the Guelph in North Bay, town of Welland and Innisfil have one. So basically, it's like you'd separate the water and sewer. They'd be they have a board with a couple of council members on it and some residents, and they have more. They can borrow funds outside of the city, so the city's not limited to their borrowing. So it'd be the same type of idea with that. So I think it's worth looking into, and I would recommend that we receive the report from LAS and we nominate our CEO, Dave Unraw, to sit on this municipal staff committee.
That is a motion that's seconded by Councillor Lafreniere. Councillor Keel?
So I'm really excited about this. I think for far too long, municipalities, rightly or wrongly, have sort of just looked inwards on themselves as opposed to exploring other partnerships, as opposed to exploring other finance models, and basically looking at what other opportunities are out there. From my perspective, a lot of what we do around this table, and don't get me wrong, Pembroke has an identity. And with Jamie's passing, we've been talking a lot about Pembroke's identity this last week, from our hockey roots to our lumber roots to all kinds of things. But there's a lot of stuff that we do. Filling a pothole in Pembroke isn't different than filling a pothole in Petawawa. Providing clean water to somebody in Cobden is no different than making sure we're meeting our standards here in Pembroke. So the fact that, Mr. CAO, you're looking at these other opportunities, you're looking at these partnerships, I think it's a great way to not just potentially find efficiencies and potentially find savings, which I kind of hope we do, but as you said, these talks might, as we review what we're looking at, it requires us to at the same time look at what we have, and we might, that introspective look might also assist us as well. So I'm really excited about this. I think it's a great idea to move forward with. As you said, this is step one. We'll review things as we go. So I'm very happy to support this, and I'm looking forward to the results in the coming, I guess, months, years.
Mr. Jackman?
Thank you, Your Worship. I agree totally that partnerships are excellent. I did take some time to review the report, and I'm rather astounded by some of the figures that were provided by AMO. AMO estimates that Ontario municipalities are planning for $250 to $290 billion in total capital. Geez, I sounded like Donald Trump there for a minute, sorry. $290 billion in total capital spending. That includes water and wastewater over the next 10 years. And they also state that $100 billion is expected to be growth related, with the balance going to asset rehabilitation and replacement, as discussed on previous pages. And the statement says there is a risk that municipalities are not building adequate reserves for these needs. We just went through a budget process where, we again hammered the taxpayer, not just to collect money, but because of, infrastructure issues such as this that require maintenance. We may need a tertiary sewage treatment plant in the future as the area continues to grow. We may not be able to handle the sewage effluent that's coming to our municipality. So it's rather, there's only two ways of getting the money. One is to incur a long-range debt through the province or through banking system, or put it on the back of the taxpayer. And talking to a county member, county Renfrew member, their municipality had a 19% tax increase. I forget what ours was, Madam Treasurer. What was our last tax? 8 something? 8.9. And his comment to me was, we weren't preparing for the future. And he said, you know, when there was a 0% tax increase, we were loved by everybody. And he said, now, he said, I can't go to an event where I'm being attacked. But he said, it's not because of what I've done, it's because of what we failed to do in the past. So I think we have to understand that. I think we do as a council. The money comes from either debt or the taxpayer. So as Councillor Keel had said, the relationships with other municipalities and paying the full share of the cost, not 18% or 20%, paying the full share of the cost. If you want to use this is what's going to cost you, or else you're going to go to the province, and the province is going to tell you. And I mean, the province is, in my estimation, passing the buck, saying, you know, you guys work it out. Don't bring us into it because we don't want to be the bad guy. But they're going to either have to say, you know, Pembroke cannot bear this any longer. You have to be a full paying member of the process, or you're not going to get the service. Anyway, that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Frendi, you have any comment? Or?
No, I just think it's a great idea to look at it. Similar to ORPC, we don't hands-on with that either. They handle it. You know, we're shareholders and things like that. So I love this idea, and I think it may even free up staff time if we did go down that road, because we know our staff are already taxed when it comes to time. So thank you.
Thank you. So from the chair, I'm always interested in new things. I can tell you that the mayor of Brockville was unfortunately unaware of any of this. I reached out to him just to see, because Brockville is often our comparator, and for some reason he didn't know anything about it. I have two questions going into it. So I understand that it's to appoint yourself, Mr. CAO. One of the, under financial comment, it says it's currently staff time. Is the staff time your staff time, or is there other staff required to pull answers together? Because I'm trying to look at how much staff members are drawn into different initiatives. The second one is, given that we have just recently negotiated contract with Laurentian Valley, is Laurentian Valley signing on to this joint review, because we are contractually hooked to them at this point?
Yeah, thank you for the questions. So in regards to the who else, the Township of Whitewater, they passed the motion last Wednesday, and Township of Laurentian Valley was bringing it forward to their council tonight for the recommendation. And that's the three of us met ahead of time and had some discussions strategically, to kind of align with this. Sorry, I forgot your first question.
First is just it references appointing yourself, but then it references staff time. So I'm just trying to figure out, is it your time? Is it your time, Madam Treasurer's time? Is it like who's pulling together? Because I'm assuming you got to feed as they say, you got to feed the beast in order to be able to come out with something.
Yeah, and that's why I put my name down, because it'll be some financial reports that would come from the treasurer. It might be some information coming from asset management, so Jennifer Belair, and one of the things that I think again is really important is the feedback from the staff. The staff are the ones that are on the ground and they're working it, and so I really think that it needs to have some staff engagement. So there will be that, and so myself as the kind of quarterback and gathering the information from the different sources. I think we're in a really good place because of all the hard work that staff has done in regards to gathering data and condition assessments. And so in regards to, like you said, in regards to feeding the beast, we won't have to be finding this information. It'll be available and we'll just be providing it. But yeah, it's myself, but I'll be reaching out to all my staff for support.
Thank you. And with that, call the question. Those in favor of the motion that's on the floor, it is carried unanimously. And with that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. I have Councillor Keel, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Those in favor, we are adjourned the Operations Committee. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this council meeting to order for March 18th. I would ask everyone to please take an opportunity to stand for an opening prayer and reflection. Before opening this meeting of council, I would ask those who wish, each in your own way, silently join in a prayer of guidance over these proceedings. Thank you. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest in relation to the items on this council meeting agenda? Seeing none. Moving into minutes, we have the minutes of March 4th, 2025 from council. Everyone was present, moved by the Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Lafreniere. Those in favor? That is carried. Then we have adoption of minutes from committees, and there's the Operations Committee. If we can get there, February 18th, 2025, moved by Councillor Keel, seconded by Councillor Giacono. Those in favor? That is carried. And lastly is receiving minutes from different boards, and there are none. Okay, delegations, presentations. Councillor Lafreniere, did you wish to take over?
Yes. As I did 2 weeks ago, I read a poem. Members of the grade 5-6 class at Cathedral School visited some of us here at council chambers, and they did projects on the city of Pembroke and things they love. So this is poem number 2 that I'm going to share, and the author is Cora, who is in Mrs. Jordan Dubé's class. It's called The Marina. There's so many trees that I can swing on and climb on. I see chalk on the sidewalk where people play hopscotch. Dogs playing fetch without the leash, they must feel so free. The nature here is so pretty you have to see. Birds singing their lovely songs, the water crashing on the rocks. I sit on the rocks listening to people singing their songs, people laughing and dancing and watching wildlife. The water here is so mild you must stay and play for a while. The water running through my hands, cool but nice at the same time. The rough bark on the trees when I climb them. I feel cool ice cream melting on my hands when I set up my lemonade stand. Yeah, that's cute. That's so cute. Thank you, Cora.
And thank you, Councillor Lafreniere, for bringing that forward. Skipping ahead, moving on to staff and committee reports. Councillor Lafreniere, Operations Committee, Cyrle Street Pumping Station.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Ian Keel, that tender contract number 21-2045D for Cyrle Street Pumping Station upgrade be awarded to Black & McDonald Limited in the amount of $789,675 plus HST, and that additional expenditures in the amount of $50,000 be approved for a contingency allowance, and that the budget shortfall be funded from surplus funds in the Highway 148 reconstruction project. The total value of the recommendations equal $839,675 plus applicable HST. There you go.
Thank you. Operations Committee of Council begging to report and recommend from its meeting held earlier this evening. Councillor Lafreniere moving, seconded by Councillor Keel, that tender contract 21-2045D for Cyrle Street Pumping Station upgrades be awarded to Black & McDonald Limited in the amount of $789,675 plus HST, and additional expenditures in the amount of $50,000 be approved for contingency allowance, and that the budget shortfall be funded from surplus funds in the Highway 148 reconstruction project. Total value of the recommendation equaling $839,675 plus HST. Councillor Lafreniere, did you wish to speak to this committee report?
Well, this was covered earlier tonight, and we know there's a large increase in the price, but I mean, I think the tariffs are having an impact on pricing, and this work has to be done, so.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, call the question. Those in favor? And that is carried. Next item contained on your agendas is the 2024 remuneration report for elected appointed representatives, brought forward every year. as per the Municipal Act. So there it is, and I'm sure that it'll be circulated as is the norm. No proclamations this evening. Moving us forward into bylaws. I have bylaw 2025-29, a bylaw to adopt the municipal accommodation tax. Deputy Mayor.
Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Ian Keel, that bylaw 2025-29 to adopt a municipal accommodation tax, MAT revenue, allocation policy for the corporation of the city of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further, that the said bylaw be signed with the mayor and clerk and sealed, the seal of the corporation.
Thank you. So moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Keel. Bylaw 2025-29 to adopt the municipal accommodation tax revenue allocation policy for the corporation, the city of Pembroke, being adopted and passed, and further, the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Deputy Mayor, did you wish to speak to this matter?
Yeah, this is a tax on hotels in the community to further boost revenue for tourism-related opportunities. So half the tax goes to the Ottawa Valley Tourist Association, then after the city of Pembroke, and we adopted a policy at the last meeting where the money will go. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone wishing to speak to this item as well? Seeing not, call the question. Those in favor, and that is carried. It brings us to bylaw 2025-30, a bylaw to authorize the entering into a municipal forest fire agreement with Aviation, Forest Fires and Emergency Services. Councillor Giacono.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. Moved by myself and seconded by Deputy Mayor Abdallah, that bylaw 2025-30 to authorize the entering into a municipal forest fire agreement between the City of Pembroke and Aviation, Forest Fires and Emergency Services, known as AFFES, a division of the Ministry of Natural Resources, the M&R, be adopted and passed, and further, that the said bylaw be signed by yourself, Your Worship, and the clerk, and sealed with the seal of the corporation and awaiting your signature.
Thank you. So moved by Councillor Giacono and seconded by the Deputy Mayor, that bylaw 2025-30 to authorize the entering into a municipal forest fire agreement between the City of Pembroke and Aviation, Forest Fires and Emergency Services, a division of the Ministry of Natural Resources, be adopted and passed, and further, that said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Giacono?
Your Worship, we live in a forested environment. We know how important it is to protect those resources, and this will just keep us in the loop with the ministries. Thank you.
Any other comments from council members? If not, call the question. Those in favor? And that is carried. Moving on to C, bylaw 2025-31, a bylaw to provide for the participation in the Renfrew County Mutual Aid Plan. Councillor Keel.
Your Worship, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Lafreniere, that bylaw 2025-31 to provide for the participation of the City of Pembroke Fire Department in the Renfrew County Mutual Aid Plan be adopted and passed, and further, that the said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
By Councillor Keel and seconded by Councillor Lafreniere, that bylaw 2025-31 to provide for the participation of the City of Pembroke Fire Department in the Renfrew County Mutual Aid Plan be adopted and passed, and further, that said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Keel.
I think the title is self-explanatory.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, call the question. Those in favor? And that is carried. Brings us to bylaw 2025-32, a bylaw to authorize the sale of municipally owned property 124 Woodcrest Drive in the McCool Business Park to Storage Suites Developments, Inc. And Councillor Giacono.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Deputy Mayor Abdallah, that bylaw 2025-32 to authorize the sale of municipally owned property known municipally as 124 Woodcrest Drive be adopted and passed, and further, that the said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation awaiting your signature.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Jacquemin, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Bylaw 2025-32 to authorize the sale of municipally owned property known as 124 Woodcrest Drive be adopted and passed, and further said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Jacquemin?
Discussed previously, Your Worship. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, call the question. Those in favor? And that is carried. Next is bylaw 2025-33, which is a bylaw to adopt a tangible capital asset policy. Councillor Frenier.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Ian Keel, that bylaw 2025-33 for the Corporation of the City of Pembroke to adopt a tangible capital asset policy be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
So moved by Councillor Lafreniere, seconded by Councillor Keel, that bylaw 2025-33 for the corporation of the City of Pembroke to adopt a tangible capital asset policy be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Lafreniere?
It's pretty self-explanatory. Thank you.
Any questions, comments from council members? Seeing none, call the question. Those in favor? And that is carried. Brings us to bylaw 2025-34, bylaw to enter into a Riverside Park Repair Service Fund agreement with the Area Fiddling Association. Councillor Jacquinot.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Keel, that bylaw 2025-34 to authorize the entering into of a Riverside Park Repair Reserve Fund agreement between the Pembroke and Area Fiddling Association and the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of corporation, and awaiting your signature.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Jacquinot, seconded by Councillor Keel, that bylaw 2025-34 to authorize the entering into a Riverside Park Repair Reserve Fund agreement between the Pembroke and Area Fiddling Association and the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Jacquinot?
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. The treasurer has provided me with a little overview of why this is being done. I was fortunate enough to be around this table when the fiddling and step dancing was at its peak, and there was a large number of trailers at Riverside Park. And one year we had an excessive rainfall, and the trailers that were parked on the soccer fields did an extreme amount of damage. And of course, the Fiddling and Step Dancing Association came forward saying, you know, we'd like to help repair that. And a reserve fund was raised in the amount of $20,000. Since that time, we haven't encountered any real damage to the particular facility or the grounds that the trailers are on. And I think what this will do now will allow the association to take some of that money that they may have been putting into the reserves and put it back towards their venue to attract more people, et cetera, to the community. And I'm sure if there is considerable damage in the future, that they're more than willing to come forward and we could possibly adjust that amount. But I think this is fair. They came forward willing to step up with, they put their money where their mouth was, and we appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jacquinot, an excellent explanation as to what has transpired over the years. Not seeing any questions, so I'll call the question. Those in favor, and that is carried. Next bylaw, and the last bylaw for this evening, is 2025-35, a bylaw to authorize the entering into a transit service agreement. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Ed Jacquinot, that bylaw 2025-35 to authorize the entering into a transit service agreement between 232-1190 Ontario Incorporated, operating as Mobility Transportation Specialist, MTS, and the Corporation of the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Oh, yeah, right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Moved by the Deputy Mayor and seconded by Councillor Giacono, that bylaw 2025-35 to authorize the entering into of a transit service agreement between 2321190 Ontario Inc., operating as Mobility Transportation Services, and the Corporation of the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the Corporation. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. This bylaw finalizes the award of RFP 2408 for turnkey on-demand transit service to MTS as approved at the January 21st, 2025 meeting of the Operations Committee. Once this contract is finalized, the service launch date will be set based on the transit vehicle delivery date. So the January 21st meeting, we all spoke in the transit. It was 5 years in coming. So this formalizes the contract. We've already awarded the RFP to MTS. Thank you.
Any questions and comments? Councillor Keel.
So, Your Worship, I'm going to be suggesting to council that we take a pause on this one until we get some additional legal information. So we were all here, was it the last meeting that the handy bus was put? So we were all here at the last meeting when questions were raised about whether the handy bus would have to set its fare in conjunction with us in accordance with the AODA. Being a lawyer, I couldn't help myself. I went looking for why that would be. And then, so there is a section in the regulations of the AODA that does say that where conventional transportation services and specialized transportation services are provided by separate transportation service providers in the same jurisdiction, that the specialized transportation service provider shall not charge more than the conventional transportation service. What I have been asking for now for a little while, Your Worship, is this included the handy bus? So the definition of a specialized transportation service provider, according to the regulation, means a designated public sector transportation organization. I've yet to get a legal opinion on whether or not the handy bus is a public sector organization. My personal thought is that they're not. My understanding is public sector organizations are municipalities, provincial government ministries, and the like. So I know Your Worship, in your capacity as our representative to the handy bus, I'm not sure if you can answer this question as to whether the handy bus is a public sector organization and whether this regulation applies or not. It seems there's been a lot of talk behind the scenes that if it does apply and the handy bus does have to lower its fee, well, we'll just supplement them with taxpayer dollars. Well, I don't know where we ever discussed that. I don't know why that suggestion has just been thrown out there. They're a private organization. They're a private business. They have a lofty public goal to provide transportation to the elderly and to disabled persons. But what other business in the city of Pembroke are we saying, oh, well, we'll just cover their losses? They are a private business at the end of the day. So I'm a little unnerved that we're entering into a contract when 2 weeks ago we sort of got sideswiped by this. Certainly, and I will say 2 weeks ago was the first time I heard about this particular issue. So I don't know if we have any further update either from Madam Treasurer or if Your Worship has any update as not as Your Worship but as the chair of the handy bus. But I would really like the answer to this question before we commit to going down the road. Because if the road we're going down means that we're either harming the handy bus or we're paying them out, and I guess the question would be paying them out for how long? We can certainly look at last year's numbers and we can say, oh, well, if last year you lowered your fare from A to B, this would be the price for next year. Are we going to be doing this every year for the rest of the handy bus's life? We're going to be supplementing them because we have a new transit system. So I'm still, Deputy Mayor, I'm still very much in favor of us having a public transit system. But I'm just not happy in the place we've been in for the last 2 weeks and that we don't have all these questions asked. As a courtesy, I'm not going to move that we table it right now, because of course that ends debate, Your Worship. So if I could, I'm going to put it out there for either you or Madam Treasurer to discuss, but I would like the opportunity to then move a tabling of this matter.
Councillor Keel. Madam Treasurer?
So thank you. So through the chair, I guess I would argue at this point that this is kind of an apples and oranges discussion, because we have awarded this contract already in January, and this is just the finalization of this contract, and this discussion will relate to a future report that will be brought to council in May, when we talk about what rates and what other impacts these rates might have in terms of the fares for the operation of this system. That said, this issue was raised by the Handy Bus at the last meeting, and this was the first time that this issue was raised to staff or council. It hadn't been raised to me before. The information that we have now from the consultant is that they do believe it is applicable, but only on trips that are fully within the boundaries of the city of Pembroke plus Walmart. So I have taken a look at some of the data. So we do have a meeting with the Handy Bus scheduled for April 8th, kind of in the lead up to us presenting our fare reports at the first meeting of May. But I did take a look at last year's revenue figures and tried to estimate the financial impact to the Handy Bus. So I estimate that it will impact them by less than $10,000 worth of revenue. Now, currently how the Handy Bus works is that the city has a fixed contribution, Laurentian Valley has a fixed contribution, the Handy Bus, charges fares. They do a lot of great fundraising. They get a lot of donations, and the balance of funds that they need come from provincial funding. And based on the fact that I estimate it's going to be less than $10,000, there is sufficient base funding available from the province that we could, there wouldn't be a requirement for the city to provide additional funding to fund this gap if there is a gap. Now, I say this saying that we haven't decided the fares yet. I don't have all the data from the Handy Bus, and how much this will impact them is entirely dependent on what rate we're going to set at the beginning of May in terms of what the adult fare is going to be, and then how that compares to the Handy Bus fare. So, as I mentioned, this is more of an operational decision. It doesn't have anything to do with the contract award itself. I guess a question back to the group is, at the last meeting, it was suggested that it was incumbent on the Handy Bus to get the legal opinion and not the city. So I guess my question is, do you want the city to get a legal opinion on this additionally? Because obviously I can't control what the Handy Bus does or doesn't do. But I can go out and get a legal opinion on this, but it would be up to council to provide that staff direction. So I guess to say is, it does appear from the consultant's understanding, talking to their AODA experts, internally, that it will be applicable. I will be attending a transit conference at the end of this month, and I will talk to some of the AODA experts that I have access to at the conference to get their opinion on that as well. But it doesn't change the fact that we have already awarded this contract. And this is just, the final, dotting the I's and crossing the T's on that decision that's already been made. So I guess the question back is, do you want the city to get a legal opinion on this as well to help feed into that May report? So I guess I'll throw it back to the chair and anybody else.
A question, Councillor Frenier?
Question. If we were to table this until after the meeting with Handy Bus, how would that affect the flow of everything else that needs to happen?
So through the chair, so we might not be starting in the summertime, because then we're delaying the launch of our new system essentially, and we'd have to update our project plan because we're already a little late. We should have, ideally we would have had this on the last agenda. It's just trying to get the legal opinion and whatnot took some time to finalize the contract.
Councillor Frenier?
So I guess the question is, if we do have to subsidize Handy Bus, which I'm not hearing we do, that it would come from the province, is that 10,000 or 15,000 going to be enough for us to change our mind about providing transit? And I guess that's what we need to ask ourselves. Would we change our mind if they came back and say, yeah, the city has to kick in 10,000 a year to handy bus? Would we change our mind? I guess that's the question. Yeah, I know, but that's how I'm wrapping my mind around it.
In terms of the question raised by Madam Treasurer, in terms of does this group want a legal opinion, that's the question she's raising of you, Councillor Giacono.
Mr. Mayor, I believe we should proceed. I mean, we've already gone through a lot of work. The question about the subsidization of the fares, I think, could be addressed later, because I think it becomes a split decision where the province would probably, in my estimation, through the gas tax, pick up the difference if there was a difference. I would presume that, because now you're dealing with two different scenarios. You've got as you said, a private company running a business, and you have a municipality who's engaged in a contract with a company to provide a business for the residents of the community. I feel we should proceed. I really think in my past experience that the cost would be subsidized by the province, and I think Councillor Keel has a fear that that would not happen. We've gone to a lot of work to this point, and I think we should proceed. We should do what we said we're going to do.
Everyone's had an opportunity to speak, and I can answer your question as part of a larger response. So, at the risk of repeating myself on different points, but I will answer Councillor Keel's question because I have written the ministry. Get an answer from the ministry. In any event, so going back to basics, the RFP is based upon a paradigm report, and whether you like the paradigm report, I personally don't, but it's based upon outdated information. We now know that the Algonquin College is sustaining a loss in the millions. There's cut to the international students, cut to provincial funding, and now there's 4 programs that are lost in the Pembroke campus. In terms of rates and fares and that sort of thing, to answer your question, Councillor Keel, so this is what effectively I'm contacting you from the City of Pembroke. This is what I want to know, and they quoted a bunch of different sections, but in respect to what you're quoting, that's what they quoted back to me, where there's a conventional transportation service and a specialized transportation service, and they're provided by separate transportation service providers in the same jurisdiction, then the specialized transportation service provider shall not charge more than the highest fare charged by the conventional transportation service in the same jurisdiction. So it's a very boilerplate kind of answer back to me, but it was with me saying City of Pembroke, Pembroke Handy Bus, conventional, like I put it, laid it on the line. This is what our situation is. Can you answer me in terms of what the scoop is? So this is what they came back with, and they answered. I was raising other questions as well about AODA and so forth, and so there's a page-long answer that they gave me, but that's the chapter and verse that they quoted, which presumably is right out of the act. In terms of, what else here? In terms of rates and so forth, so because I think that there's some individuals around the table that maybe don't know and so forth, the Transit Committee met once throughout this entire process, is meeting again in April to look at fares. So this is moving forward, even though we haven't set the fares, and I understand that we have estimates and so forth, but none of that was caught, and seemingly the consultant didn't catch this particular issue until it was raised. And yes, it wasn't caught by the handy bus until there was, when the presentation was made, I did not have this yet. I said, well, let's get an actual firm answer, because like you yourself, I want firm things. I don't want, well, I think that. I would rather know for sure. Another point that I have written down here is that in terms of partnerships, and so we know that the handy bus goes into Laurentian Valley as well as handy bus. Laurentian Valley does contribute funds because the handy bus does go into that jurisdiction. Where I'm going with this is that it's gotten back to me from more than one individual, that there's a member of our council telling individuals in Laurentian Valley, all you got to do is cross over the jurisdiction boundary, give them an address in Pembroke, and you can take it too. What concerns me about that is, on this whole bloody thing, is that, so that means our taxpayers are subsidizing a system, because let's face it, the fares don't cover it, we all know that, is subsidizing a system that is going to also benefit Laurentian Valley. And make no mistake, I'm not against Laurentian Valley on this particular point, and I'm not against transit as a whole, as a socialist way of trying to assist with, greenhouse gases and so forth. But I have an issue with our taxpayers subsidizing the use by individuals who all they have to do is cross the jurisdiction boundary, which is what I got told by more than one person. In any event, I understand what you're saying, and whether you want to table it, that was one of the thoughts that I wrote down. If this council doesn't table it and wants to forge ahead, I'm asking for a recorded vote, and certainly I'm voting no. Deputy Mayor.
So there's no doubt we support the handy bus. The handy bus has been around for years. The treasurer's already said about the gas tax. So we're talking about two different things here. Tonight we're formalizing the award of a contract we've already approved. We've worked on transit for 4 years. I'm not going to rehash the benefits of the college, who's going to use it. We all know who's going to use it. If someone is in Stafford and they walk across the road and they want to use the bus to go to Walmart or go downtown, I'm not going to deny them the right. It's going to be more customers. Anyhow, we're here to formalize the contract. Tabling it does not do anything. The treasurer's going to come back with a report in May. We have a transit meeting April 8th for the fares, and we proceed. We've come this long. We proceed. We don't want to delay the launch in the summer, and we move forward. So we have a motion on the floor.
Councillor Giacono.
Your Worship, my question is, this is supposed to be a municipally kind of run operation. Why are we going to Walmart in another municipality to provide a service? Why are we going to Laurentian Valley? Is Laurentian Valley kicking in any cost on the bus servicing or any of our costs at all? We're going to be providing a service to people that want to go shop in Walmart. Now, mind you, that could be people from Pembroke, but we're still outside of our boundary based on this particular presumption. So I have an issue with that. If we're going to go to Walmart, shall we go to Petawawa? Should we go to the new grocery store up there? Shall we travel to Cobden to go to the Cobden Fair? Where does it stop? If you're going to have a boundary, you have to have a boundary. And I that sort of sits in my craw a little bit. Not that I don't want to cooperate with my neighbors. I understand that. But we're going to another municipality. Do we have their permission to go there? Are we illegal in that process? That's my question.
Madam Chair, the two questions, I guess, is Laurentian Valley providing any funds? And secondly, do we have permission to go to Walmart?
Okay, so the issue of potential crossover use from Laurentian Valley, I have discussed this with both the Blaze software company as well as our left turn, right turn project management firm several times. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure, which is unlike other municipalities, that we are going to be collecting people's home addresses so that it can be audited. So, and I have confirmed with Blaze that I will be able to do some downloads of information to see who's writing, how many times, and then we can cross-reference that to our tax records because we're, very well aware based on street names and numbers, who's in boundary or out of boundary, to be able to follow up and kind of crack down on that, or go to Laurentian Valley and say, hey, maybe you want to we want to pitch in some funds. It's just difficult to know the size of the problem until we start walking down the path. There's always going to be trouble on the boundary roads where, one side's Laurentian Valley, one side's Pembroke. So one of the ways that we've talked about trying to discourage that is trying to make sure that there's, because we're saying, we don't want people to walk more than 400 meters, is that we're going to make sure you're walking 400 meters so that they have to walk maybe even a little further than that, which might kind of naturally discourage people from, it's not so easy as just crossing the street. It's, there is going to be a a walk involved if you're a Laurentian Valley user and you want to use our service. As a way to try to discourage it, although that's still, if somebody's walking, how many kilometers a day to get to their job, I mean, it might not necessarily make a difference, but are we talking about 10 people? Or are we, 10 people is probably not going to make a big difference to our system. I mean, 1,000 people is going to make a difference to our system. So until we have some data, it's really difficult to know. But we were always going to have this sort of boundary sensitivity to keep track of. And so that is one of the things on my radar that I'm going to analyze. And as we bring information forward to council, we're not necessarily going to look at this every week, but I would say, we're going to be doing a big review at the 6-month mark because we're going to be going out. How's our service going? We're going to be doing like a formal review with users and non-users to see how their service is going. And I would see that I would also be looking at this time to say, okay, now we have some data. Are we going to go after Laurentian Valley for some money? Or am I going to say, I'm cutting a whole bunch of users off the list, you can't use our service? Or am I saying, you can use the service, but you're going to not pay $5, you're going to pay $15 if you want to use the service, right? So there's a number of different weight policies to address the issue, but it's hard to know, like, until we understand the scope of the issue. If it's 10 users, is it really going to make a big difference to us? Probably not. So I guess that's my answer to Stafford is we're aware of it. And this is something that we are going to be trying to manage as an issue as we go through the launch of the service. In terms of Walmart, Walmart, I think, is a concession to our Algonquin College users who I think have been the biggest proponent behind us getting transit. The deputy mayor and myself did attend the open house for Algonquin College this weekend. Certainly our services were well received. The students that were there, they had a panel at the front of existing students answering questions, and when they found out that there's transit coming, they were very excited. And I know Jamie himself was back here when we made the decision at the end of January. So certainly I think Walmart is a key area of grocery shopping for the students and a source of employment for the students. And like all kind of fixed destination points, West End Mall, East End Mall, Walmart, we will have to discuss with the property owners the ability to put signage and have a formal stop at these locations, to ensure that, we've looked at the liability and the legalities of that. So again, Walmart was a concession to the students, but that's the only location outside the city that we were talking about having a stop.
Councillor Giacono's question is Laurentian Valley paying, and do we have their permission? That's his two questions.
So I don't believe we need Laurentian Valley's permission to have a stop at Walmart. We need Walmart's permission as a private property. And we haven't worked through routing yet. So that'll be one of the next things we do. So we're just finalizing the contract now. The next step is fees, because there's no point in doing fees if the service wasn't going to be approved, which we approved in January. So fees, cancellation policy, and then routing is the next steps in the project plan.
So I'm assuming no, Laurentian Valley isn't paying. Councillor Giacono,
Yep.
follow up, and then
I hate to beat on a dead horse, but Walmart is an American large subsidiary owned by shareholders. We've had a gentleman from Giant Tiger, who came here to this council begging us to ensure that the roads are in proper shape so that people could get to his store. We have people in the West End Mall who are struggling. They're restructuring to put business in there. Why are we not servicing our own business people with this transportation route? If somebody really wants to go to Walmart, they'll get there. But our taxpayers here need the support. Walmart doesn't give us a dime. A dime. It may be employing some students, okay, I gather that. But I've also seen those same Algonquin students working at Giant Tiger. So, I think the system should be set up to support the people here that pay the bill. And if you want, as I said, if you want to go to Walmart, an American, huge corporate, go for it. I mean, that's people's choice. No, you know, I can't tell people where to shop, where not to shop. Do we have to go to Petawawa? Perhaps people work on the base. That could be discussed. But this particular agreement we're looking at now should be focused on the city of Pembroke and nowhere else. And if we have more information that comes forward, then so be it. I would vote in favor of it, but I don't want the Walmart corporate in there if they're not going to contribute. All they're going to do is benefit.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
Lafreniere?
So, I 100% agree with Councillor Jackno about Walmart. We can go as far as the East End Mall. If people want to walk over to Walmart or Canadian Tire, fine. But we're doing our own businesses a disservice to promote transportation all the way out there. Because he's absolutely right. Pretty much almost everything you can get there, you can get at a store in Pembroke. So I would support that. And like for these reasons, these concerns being raised, like the fares, it does disturb me a little because of this discrepancy now between the handy bus fare and this fare. And I know I had a little conversation with Councillor Keel about rates. And I think we have a little bit of an issue with how much is it going to cost our residents. So if they decide it's going to be like $10 a ride, well, do we like that? Probably not. We want to know what the fares are going to be, or at least have a good idea. Because if it's going to be too much, we may not have ridership. So I'm just, you know, that is a concern too. If we agree tonight, are our hands tied? If they come back and say, you know, the rates are going to be this, and we're like, whoa, that's too high. So I want to know if you could answer that question, because that's going to make me decide whether I'm supporting a table or not.
Madam Treasurer?
So the fare limitation is based on the city because we're talking about a lower rate. Like it's the handy bus that's going to have to limit their fare. And how much is the limit is based on, well, what does the city agree to charge? We've talked about $5, but that's, you know, a discussion around the table. That's not a decision yet. So once the decision is made, it is going to be $5, for example, then the handy bus will have to cut its rate to meet the regulation once our service starts. And then for the rides that I think follow the same, like it has to be Pembroke to Pembroke because we don't offer service other than. Okay, so I guess my other question is that if council does not want to support a Walmart stop, I guess we would just need staff direction for that, and we'll update our promotional materials related to the new service.
Councillor Lafreniere to follow up, and then I have Councillor Keel and the Deputy Mayor.
I just want to know you to know that the Walmart, yes, I support directing staff take that out, but I don't have an issue with individuals that live on Boundary Road in Laurentian Valley or they want to walk over and catch a bus. I think that's nickel and diming. I think that will increase our ridership, and it takes staff out of that counting, you know, who lives who, where. It's just, it's a nightmare. So anyway, I wouldn't mind just taking Walmart out.
Point of information.
Yes?
Through the chair to the treasurer, the council, the Trans Committee will recommend a fare, and council has the final say in approval. And we can take out the Walmart.
Councillor Keel.
I feel like I just had some sort of weird whiplash. I couldn't disagree more on the Walmart position of Councillor Jacquinot and Councillor Lafreniere. I don't know who we are to tell our residents and our taxpayers where they should be shopping. It's up for our businesses, it's up for our downtown, it's up for our store owners to make their place the place that they want to shop. I mean, are we going to... Oh, I don't know if I want to go down this road. Are we... I can't think of another example. Are we going to change our city solicitor because our city solicitor lives outside of the city of Pembroke? No, we're not. Of course we're not. It's just so weird. I was just arguing against tabling this, and now I'm defending it. Walmart employs dozens of people from the city of Pembroke. So if the people from the city of Pembroke want to go to Walmart, I don't know who we are to tell them you can't take our transit to go there. well, if they had a car, Councillor Giacono, they probably won't be taking our transit, and they're. Well, I'm not going to get in. I'm not going to get into a debate with you. So my understanding is, in terms of the Walmart stop, you're going to be picked up in Pembroke. So you're a Pembroke resident. You're going to go to Walmart, and from Walmart, you can only be brought back into Pembroke. So we're not going to have any cross Laurentian Valley people, except maybe on Boundary Road or something like that, which I don't know how we would police that anyway, to be honest, and I'm not sure the numbers would warrant it. But anyway, I now have a concern. If we take Walmart out of the equation, what effect is that going to have on our ridership? Because I think the fact that Walmart's all the way out there is one of the main reasons people are looking for transit, is to get all the way out there. So I think if we take Walmart out of the equation, which I'm not going to apologize for the fact that Walmart is a multi-billion-dollar corporation that lots of people enjoy shopping at. They got.
Did you say it was Canadian?
Giacono, let Councillor Keel finish. It's fine. Councillor Keel?
For those with a hearing issue, I said multi-billion-dollar corporation. So, again, I think if we cut Walmart out of the mix, we're going to be cutting riders out of the mix, which is going to be cutting fares out of the mix, which is going to be having an effect on our overall net value. And now we're back to the money side of things, which is my concern. And Your Worship, I certainly thank you for your email. Unfortunately, I just don't think it answers my question, because again, if I say specialized transportation service provider, I can understand how everybody sits there and goes, well, the handy bus is a specialized transportation service provider. But again, when you go to the definition in the regulation, specialized transportation service provider means a designated public sector transportation organization. And I still haven't yet figured out how the handy bus, a private corporation, is a public sector transportation organization. So I'm still asking the question of why we think this regulation even applies to them. And that's the answer that I still haven't had. I don't think there's actually a motion on the table yet. I think we've only talked about one. So I move that we table this to the next meeting.
We have a motion.
So there's a motion to table. Is there a seconder for the motion to table this matter? Seeing none, the motion to table fails. We're still left with the motion that's on the floor. Councillor Giacono.
Your Worship, in response to my illustrious colleague across across the room here, the only difference between the stop at Walmart and what he is suggesting, who are we to stop people from going there? We're not stopping them from going. The point is this transit system is not supported by Walmart. It's supported by the taxpayers in the city of Pembroke, and that is the difference. That's their money. So if Walmart wants to come here and say, you know what, that's a great idea, I'll pay for 50% of your cost, I'm all for it. But why should, a lady living on McKay Street who's paying taxes here saying, well, why am I sending people to shop out there when I want my tax dollars spent here? I pay taxes for that service here, not over there, here. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah. So we've talked about, like the treasurer said, we're doing apples and oranges again. So Walmart employs local people. It's American owned, but it's in the Laurentian Valley. And so we can stop at the Pembroke Mall. If Walmart want to come to the treasurer and say, well, we'll give you so many thousands of dollars for a stop, that can be decided down the road. But tonight we're finalizing a contract, which I've gone over twice, has different variables in it, 90 days notice for cancellation, so many days notice for fare adjustments, so many days notice for route change. So all we're doing is formalizing the contract tonight that we approved on January 21st. So let's move forward.
We've discussed the heck out of this, but I got to tell you, Deputy Mayor, I got to say one thing. If I was to give you something for free and then afterwards say, I want you to pay for it, you're not going to pay for it. That's the first thing. The second thing that I really don't understand is if staff are tracking and asking or trying to deter people in a certain distance from our border, then why the heck are you telling people, just come over into the Pembroke side and utilize the service? I really don't, but I'm not obviously going to, a number of people have told me that you're telling people that. So, Councillor Lafreniere, I'm telling you, a number of
Okay.
people told me. Councillor
Thank you.
Lafreniere, last word, and then I'm calling the question
Yeah,
because.
so, I hear what Councillor Keel said, but I guess my point is we have to set a boundary for our bus service. People go to Home Depot and Winners and all those other stores too from Pembroke, but we got to set a boundary. And so that's my hard and fast boundary, and that's my last comment on that. Thank you.
Motion on the floor again is the acceptance of, by bylaw 2025-35, entering into the transit service agreement between 232-1190 Ontario Inc. and the City of Pembroke, and it was circulated to all of you. So subject to any little directions or what have you, that's the motion that's on the floor, and I wanted a recorded vote.
Okay, so the motion is read by the mayor. So Deputy Mayor Brian Abdallah,
Yes.
Councillor Ed Jacquino,
Yes.
Councillor Ian Keel,
Yes.
Councillor Pat Lafreniere,
Yes,
Councillor Andrew Plummer's absent, and Councillor Troy Purcell is absent. Mayor Ron Gervais.
Nay.
The motion passes 4-1.
Thank you. Moving on to motions, Resolution 250328, All River Power Corporation, request for municipal support regarding a SREP grant application. Councillor Keel.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Lafreniere. Whereas the Ottawa River Power Corporation plans to submit an application to the Natural Resources Canada under the Smart Renewables and Electrification Pathways Utility Support Stream grant program for a project with the objective of enhancing the local electricity distribution system and with the implementation of advanced smart grid technologies. And whereas the proposed upgrades include advanced smart fault indicators, automated switches and reclosers, SCADA system upgrades, and the deployment of an outage management system, all aimed at improving safety, efficiency, and reliability of the electricity grid. And whereas these technological advancements will help to reduce outage durations, minimize service interruptions, enhance real-time grid monitoring, improve outage detection and response times, and support a more resilient, adaptable, and future-ready grid infrastructure. And whereas this project aligns with the objectives of the Smart Grid Energy Program, including the strengthening of local electricity infrastructure, supporting the integration of distributed energy resources, contributing to cleaner energy transition, and improving operational efficiencies. And whereas the City of Pembroke recognizes the long-term benefits of a modern and reliable electricity system for the community's residents and businesses, now therefore be it resolved that the City of Pembroke endorses Ottawa River Power Corporation's proposed Smart Grid Technology Program and supports its application for funding through the SREP's program. Further be it resolved that the City of Pembroke authorizes this resolution of endorsement to be forwarded to Ottawa River Power Corporation as formal support of the project. Please dispense with
Thank you.
rereading, Your Worship.
Thank you. I was just about to ask, did you wish to comment on this lengthy resolution or let it stand for itself?
Your Worship, I barely understood what was in that resolution, but I support ORPC and the aspects where it says it's making our grid more reliable, and that sounds great. I just don't know how they're doing it.
Mr. CAO, did you have some information?
Yes, through the chair. So this was something that was just brought forward by ORPC, and again, it's the idea again of almost like a municipal service corp, that they want and need that direction through the municipality in support of the funding agencies. So they are looking at approximately $4 million worth of upgrades, and the grant could provide up to 50% financial support. So it is a huge opportunity for the Ottawa River Power Corporation and the City of Pembroke. And as indicated, there are 4 items that they are looking at: the advanced smart fault indicators, the automated switches and reclosures, the SCADA system, which is huge in regards to determining, from a remote location, what is that fault and what is the issue, and then the outage management system deployment. So, and open up to questions if there are any.
Questions for Mr. Unruh? Seeing none, call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. No correspondence tonight under Mayor's report. So good evening, everyone. On March 7th, Councillor Keel and I attended a town hall meeting held by MP Cheryl Gallant as well as MP Larry Brock from Brantford. He's the MP from there. As I understand it, he's making his way across the country, doing various town halls, discussing crime, and is a critic to the Justice Minister. I look forward to any comments that Councillor Keel might have. Interesting conversation, interesting questions being raised by the public in respect to crime, the criminal code, bail reform, and so forth. March 8th, I attended an inspector/mayor coffee event that was held at the Bonanza Restaurant. Thank you to Bonanza Restaurant for allowing us to have it at their location. A good opportunity to meet with the community, discuss concerns that different individuals have, and there was a variety of different concerns, whether they be municipal concerns, policing concerns, different items such as that. And over the March break, I know that the Deputy Mayor had commented the variety of different free skating, and so I'm very encouraged that individuals taking in that. I will say that the Lumber Kings made it to the playoffs, and so please join me in cheering on the Kings as they make their way through the playoffs, and go Kings, go. Are there any councillor updates? Councillor Giacono and then Councillor Keel.
Thank you, Your Worship. Some early correspondence with you, Your Worship, and your direction to ensure that certain individuals would be able to come and pay their final respects to Jamie Bramberger were much appreciated. You kind of tasked me with it, but it was because of your leadership to ensure that this took place, that it did happen, and thank you for that. I also want to thank Caitlin Cebulski from Malcolm and Devitt, who helped arrange this meeting of individuals, the past president of Algonquin College, Rob Gillett, and his wife Ann, also Marguerite Donahue and her husband Terry, Don Dubé and her husband Pierre, and there were other friends and really close associates of Jamie, who wanted to pay their final tribute. And I thank Caitlin for allowing that, because, when you're running such a large tribute to somebody, everybody wants to do something a little different. She could have said no, but she said yes. And the setup at the Pembroke Memorial Center, as council was there, you saw the amazing tribute paid to Jamie through the positioning of flowers, of photographs, of pictures, a real tribute to his life, and I'm sure that his family would truly appreciate that as well. Again, Your Worship, thank you for allowing me to do that and report back to you. I was also very impressed, and I'm sure we all were, with the Lumber Kings, wearing their jerseys as a tribute to Jamie, who spent, a good portion of his life in that building. And it truly was, it moved me. They were also at the church, at Holy Trinity Church, at the service today. And I know that Jamie would be looking at that with the greatest smile on his face. He worked so hard for this community in so many ways. And I truly believe, through his interactions, he helped bring Algonquin College here. He really did. He worked his butt off. And he was also involved heavily as an announcer, at the radio station originally and went on to bigger things. And he interviewed many people, former Prime Minister of Canada, and we saw the wonderful tribute that Sean Banky put together. How do you put a lifetime of somebody's work and efforts into a 10-minute session? I can't imagine, Sean, what you went through trying to get clips and et cetera. And Pat would understand well, having worked in the telecommunications building, about editing, et cetera. So thank you for that, and I'm sure it was well appreciated and seen everywhere across the country. I know my wife was in Ottawa, and she was going to watch it on television as well. Sean Conway gave an amazing eulogy. I know that Sean, respected past retired member of provincial parliament, 28 years. He was the elder statesman, of course, and he was a high-profile cabinet minister, having attained the Ministry of Education at one time under David Peterson, I believe. So he was there from 1975 to 2003. His eulogy to Jamie was very emotional. And Sean looks the same. He looks like a kid, Saw him today, but, he served this community very well over the years as well. And for him to come and do that eulogy really tugged at my heartstrings. I know Councillor Keel and I both had a little discussion about that, and his bravado and talking about his good friend Jamie and what that would have meant to his family. What he stated most of all through a letter from Jamie's son to be read, and I don't know how he did it without breaking down. Everybody's got a soul in their heart. And Sean Conway, I know truly was keeping it together when he read the letter from Jamie's son about, regarding the hockey, etc. His father, first of all, was dedicated to his wife, to his children, to his grandchildren. They were his life. Everything else, even though he threw his heart and soul into it, came second. So, recognizing that, and I think truly that he really, really spoke about Jamie's character and what the type of a man that he was. And he also quoted a section from Theodore Roosevelt called "The Man in the Arena." And it spoke about a man in an arena, not necessarily, a physical arena, but the arena of life, where he dedicates certain things, where he has successes, he has failures. He has many things happen to him, but at the end of it, did he leave his mark in the community or upon others? And I think that if you get the chance to see it, it's called "The Man in the Arena." Take a look at what it says, because truly that was Jamie Bramberger. Again, Your Worship, thank you for taking the lead and giving me the direction. I always listen to you most of the time, Your Worship, but thank you for that. And I know that the world and our community is a better place because of individuals like Jamie Bramberger. To his family, I know that you said earlier your condolences. I appreciate you giving me a few moments just to speak to this as well. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Giacomo, for all the work behind the scenes to make it seamless, especially for the wake as well. Councillor Keel.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just going to go in chronological order because a lot of stuff has happened in these last couple of weeks. The town hall with MP Gallant and MP Brock. Certainly interesting is, I think, the word that Your Worship used. I'll second that one. Certainly, we in our own community over these last couple years, not unsurprisingly, I think it's been said around this table before, when the economy goes down, crime tends to go up. That's the statistical reality here in other countries. Certainly, the CAO and I were able to have a delegation with the Provincial Solicitor General to discuss drug houses and tools that municipalities need to address that. And certainly, I think Your Worship would agree that the drugs was a big part of what we were discussing at that town hall, and the need to, in particular, to punish those who are trafficking, to punish those who are certainly the ones importing them into our country, because most of this is not coming from here in Canada at the moment. So it certainly was an interesting discussion, and I certainly took from it that that it is right now. I mean, the room was well filled for a Friday afternoon town hall. So it certainly suggests to me that our community does at the moment have crime and justice on their mind, and of course the safety of our residents is something that we are always conscious of. This past Sunday, Ottawa Valley Kaylee Kitchen Party with Gillen Roots, the Fiddlers, who were first place in last year's Ottawa Valley Talent Showcase. Rodina Gardner was on the stage doing some step dancing. It was a really good kickoff to St. Patrick's Day. You couldn't help but be singing along with Gillen, who I think is one of our foremost storytellers / musicians from the area. He provides a very engaging. If you haven't seen a production with Gillen, he's very engaging. I know. I believe he does our seniors residences as well. So certainly, I thank Gillen for bringing that production to our festival hall. Upcoming at Festival Hall on Saturday, this Saturday, is the second Ottawa Valley Talent Showcase. Seats are still available. I believe that there are 24 or 25 acts. And so that is going to be Saturday night at Festival Hall. Coming up Friday, March 28th, Magician Impossible. This will be a great family event. Tickets still available for that one. Sunday, April 6th, an evening performance, the Australian Bee Gees tribute show. I have no doubt that that's going to have a lot of energy in the room. And Saturday, April 12th, Pembroke Beatlemania tribute show. So that's what's coming up this next week into April. Your Worship, if I may take a moment as well to express my condolences and just pure shock at Jamie Bramberger's passing. Councillor Lafreniere, I hope you will extend to your department, Parks and Rec, what an absolutely amazing job they did with the PMC. I'll be honest with you, when I heard that it was going to be at the PMC, my brain was having a hard time making that into a funeral arrangement. And to walk in and to have the Pembroke Lumber Kings as ushers, to have his jersey at center ice, to have the press box where he spent so much time lit up. I am so glad that the city was able to partner in that send-off, and I hope you'll pass along to Jordan and all the staff that participated in that. Not something the city probably ever thought it would be doing, but in a matter of days they pulled off, Councillor Lafreniere, something great, something spectacular. Certainly to Malcolm and Devitt, as Councillor Giacono said, I don't know how else to describe it, but they managed to pull off a municipal state funeral. You know, I know we have a number of funeral homes in town. They're all great. I think probably all of us know the owners of every one of them. But credit is due when it's due, and Malcolm and Devitt's again pulled off something that I don't know, I'll leave it to maybe some of the older members in the room as to when the last time the city of Pembroke had to deal with something that large for our own. I know there was the military one some time ago, but in terms of our own production, I'm not sure when we would have had something that large before. Sean, you did a video that I knew it was going to be hard to watch. I don't know how you put it together. I'm imagining it wasn't the easiest thing for you to do. I hope you share with us then. It wasn't the easiest thing to watch either. But I don't know if that video is going to be made available at any point. Sean, he's off camera. He's nodding yes, and I think it was great to hear from Jamie one last time. To the Pembroke Lumber Kings, what a great group of kids. They were there. What was that? All 7 hours yesterday. They were there again today at the church. For a group of young guys, I spoke with a couple of them, and I know how much Jamie meant to them off the ice and the interviews, and you know, they're not all from around here, and what a great person to have in your corner, someone like Jamie when you come to town. And I know the owner of the Lumber Kings. I mean, he basically just offered up everything he could over the last 2 days, and certainly that's appreciated. The last thing that I just want to say, as I did yesterday, is to the Brandberger family, thank you for sharing Jamie with us. I don't know how he did everything he did in his public life and still had a private life. You know, I sometimes joke, but I'm also sometimes serious when people ask me how I do it, and I say, well, I'm a single guy with no kids. It's a little easier to run a business and be on council and be president of this organization and vice chair of another thing. But Jamie had Barb, he had the kids, he had the grandkids, and you know, he obviously wasn't neglecting them, because the love that was felt over this last 2 days was something exceptional. And so to Barb and the kids, again, thank you for sharing Jamie with us. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. I have Deputy Mayor and then Councillor Frenier.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple things. I just want to make a correction on my statement about the mat tax. It's not a tax on the hotel, it's a tax on the visitor. So I just want to correct that, and apologies to the hotel industry. I meant to say the tax on the visitor for that. We had the open house in Algonquin, as the treasurer mentioned, on Saturday. And we were the transit booth there. It was very well received. They had a good turnout. It was a very difficult day. Jamie would have wanted it to go forward. And that leads me into the, to talk about Jamie for a minute. Jamie was a community man's man. He always supported, many things. And when I returned to Pembroke in 2018 and got elected, and Mayor LeMay, said, could you take care of transit lead? And first person I called was Jamie. And he set up all the meetings. Every year the student association changed. And I remember in his office one day, a year and a half ago, and I said, I don't know if the transit's going to go through, I don't know. He said, keep going. We'll advocate for it. And, he was very helpful. So he's very passionate about the transit. That's where my connection is with him, and also going to the book releases and working on the Rogers Hometown Hockey Committee, which he only had a month to put that together, and he pulled it off. And I was sitting at home the other night watching the hockey game, and Ron McLean comes on with this tribute, and I was able to get most of it except for 5 seconds, and I was able, to share it on social media, and it got over 12,000 views and 30 shares, and Ron McLean called him the Pembroke Peach and the sweetest statement. And there's a term in the songwriting business, like they say, Ron Sexsmith is a songwriter. Well, Jamie Brandberger was a community man. He was above and beyond, So, and I echo what my council members have said. Thank you to everyone involved in the beautiful service at the PMC and the Holy Trinity Church, and I extend my condolences on behalf of my wife and I to his family, and truly changed Pembroke, changed the community, changed the world, and will be truly missed. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Frenier?
I'm not going to repeat everything that's been said, but talking with the PMC staff yesterday at the memorial for Jamie, it was very clear that it was a labor of love by them as well to do the work that they had to do to set that up. And we were chuckling because they worked a lot with Jamie, setting up the trade, the Algonquin College trade fair for students, and many different things. And they said that they had it all set up, and then they knew the family was going to come in and probably change some things because that was what Jamie did. And so the family came in and surprisingly didn't want to change anything. So it was, and they were talking about, Jamie and the experiences they had with last minute changes, but they definitely were speaking with admiration, and they loved what they did for him. So I just want to, again, kudos to Joe and Fred and everybody else who worked so hard. And I know they were up till midnight the night before setting everything up. So, and I just want to say that knowing Jamie and his wife, Barb was the quiet one behind the scenes, and Jamie and I would often be at events alone, and we ended up being side by side at a table where my husband wouldn't be caught dead going to that event, and neither would she. So we kind of had a common denominator where I was always out of the house, but she's a lovely lady, and I wish her all the best, and I hope she has all the strength, as our community does. So as we mourn Jamie, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fendi, and while you were standing, confirming bylaw.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Ian Keel, that bylaw 2025-36 to confirm the proceedings of the regular meeting of council of March 18th, 2025 be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Frenier, second by Councillor Keel, that bylaw 2025-36 to confirm the proceedings of the regular meeting of council of March 18, 2025 be adopted and passed, and further said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Those in favor? That is carried. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Keel, second by the deputy mayor. Those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you.